Meeting of June 29th, 2020, and the time is 5 p.m. We will, as we always do, start with a moment of silence, and there's a lot to contemplate during this time. Moment of silence, please. Madam President, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ms. Johnson, are there any additions, deletions, reorganization of the agenda?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. We don't have any additions or deletions. However, Supervisor Link has requested that her presentation be time certain for 5:30.
Okay, very good. We don't need any kind of motion on that, do we, City Attorney? We'll just set aside time in the agenda?
Just set aside time in the agenda, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Let me start off with a proclamation. I see Leah. Hello, Leah. Accepting this proclamation will be Leah Rockwell, who's our Director of Parks and Recreation, and it is proclaiming July as National Recreation and Parks Month here in West Palm Beach. Essentially, it says that parks and recreation programming enhance our quality of life by contributing to healthy lifestyles, building community, creating economic development, and encouraging environmental stewardship. The city recognizes the benefits derived from quality public and private recreation and park resources. And I couldn't be prouder of Leah and her team. Even during COVID-19, they worked to keep us all connected and engaged through DIY, that's do it yourself for the uninitiated, which I was until about 2 minutes ago, programming and events such as the July 4th Party on the Porch. As mayor of the city of West Palm Beach, I'm proud to proclaim July as National Recreation and Parks Month. Congratulations, Leah, to you and your team. And do you want to say a few words?
I do, Mayor. Thank you very much. Leah Rockwell, the Director of Parks and Recreation. Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, and everyone listening today. So I really have something that I feel is important that we say. Every day in our communities across the country, the people of Parks and Recreation are providing essential services and making their communities better places to live, work, and play. With the response to COVID-19 and the outcry of social justice, it is very clear what our critical work is. So, as a Parks and Rec professional, I want to shift the narrative. Our profession has always had strategic pillars: a leading voice for social equity and inclusion, health and wellness, and conservation. Our residents sought out our parks and public spaces to find physical and mental health solutions. Our parks team kept our parks and are keeping our parks clean, safe, and accessible, offering residents an opportunity to adhere to physical distancing, yet continuing to find joy and community. Our events team, which we all know very well, continue to create family fun and community through engagement of their DIY programming and online programming. While, don't forget, the recreation team, their community centers are open for summer camp. Our West Palm Beach Parks and Recreation employees are strong, passionate, and selfless, embracing the importance of creating some normalcy for even our youngest of citizens. This July, please join me in redefining Parks and Recreation departments as an essential, vital necessity. We are frontline staff confronting our most pressing health, environmental, economic and social challenges. So we are Parks and Recreation. And remember, it starts in parks. We're so proud to be a part of the city of West Palm Beach. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Leah, and congratulations to you and your team. And July, National Parks and Recreation Month. Okay, any comments from commissioners? Don't see any. All right, let's move on to the first presentation, which is to, I think, Representative David Silvers, who's from District 87, is going to join us for a legislative update. Representative Silvers, are you on? Mr. Moderator, we heard from Mr. Silvers, Representative Silvers?
He is on. I'm bringing him into the meeting right now.
Fantastic, thank you.
He's online.
I'm on. I'm here. I was here for the pledge.
Very good. Representative, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I know it's a little delayed from the end of session back in mid-March, but for obvious reasons, because of COVID, there's been a delay on mayor and commission. So let me give you a quick rundown as to what happened. And so I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of what happened today with the governor's veto pen. He's basically vetoed out pretty much every single appropriation project, every member appropriation project, tallying over $1 billion to make up for the shortfall as a result of COVID-19. Is everybody aware of that? Mayor James, you're on mute.
Yes, I did get knowledge that there had been a significant veto, and I know we had a few requests and it all got vetoed. So
yeah, it looks like pretty much every single project from the Palm Beach County delegation, at least on the minority side, was vetoed, unfortunately.
yeah.
But it doesn't mean we can't fight for them next year. So I look forward to filing and fighting for them next year and spending those long nights or those long hours in the chamber in the House running for appropriation chairs, getting those back in the budget for next year. But let's just talk about what happened that was good this past session. What's interesting is the pay raises for teachers, which was huge. Was signed into law was signed in by the governor. Can you see me all right and hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. No, I just got something on my computer. There was an issue with the connection. So that was the good part. So we're getting teacher pay raises across the board for the entire state. It doesn't look like COVID-19 has impacted that. And there was also the attack on home rule. Year in, year out. It's my 4th year in the legislature, and I've been fighting for home rule. I said it before. I'll say it again. You were elected by your constituents, and I think that you should be able to do your job, whether it's the city or the county. And we're a slow-moving body in Tallahassee, and to usurp your ability to do your job, I don't think it makes for good. I don't think that makes for good government. So I've always been in favor of local rule. So unfortunately, I've got to fight against that, and it's odd how it's become so partisan. But let's not dwell on the bad. There is some good stuff that was passed this past session. I would like to focus on some of the legislation that I did pass this past session, dealing with children's mental health, to affordable housing, to domestic violence and protection for vulnerable investors. Just today, the governor signed House Bill 945, aptly named Children's Mental Health. It seeks to limit the use of crisis inpatient services for children and enhance the effectiveness of our current community services for children. It focuses on 3 areas: mobile response teams that were created as a result of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas bill that passed in 2018. But when they were created and funded, there was really no protocol set for them and accountability. This bill lays out certain levels of protocols for them to follow so that they can de-escalate situations for children, so that if a child doesn't necessarily need to be Baker Acted and have that and go through that horribly traumatic experience, you can de-escalate the situation so they don't have that path. And then also creates a coordination between Department of Children and Families and ACA. In the past, DCF and ACA hadn't really been talking to one another. Now, as a result of this legislation, it will bring them to the table and require them to have a coordination of care for these children that may be aging out of the system. So it could be a patient, a child that's under maybe the case is under the care of or under DCF. At a certain point, they may age out, and then ACA would be handling it. In the past, they weren't talking to one another. Now they are. And with regard to affordable housing, having a district or District 87 being a district that has currently 4 CRAs, the need for affordable housing is quite obvious, and it's very obvious across the state. And what's interesting about House Bill 1339, which was my bill that was passed, and it was able to, basically the point of it assists in affordable housing development at the local level. And what's interesting is that this was not a partisan issue, because the bill that my bill was amended onto was actually a Republican run bill. And I was happy to work with that bill sponsor to get this legislation in and passed and signed into law by the governor. And also on domestic violence. Now, this was a bill I ran with Representative Sam Killebrew. He's from the center part of the state, north central part, Republican, but he's much like myself, where we focus on human issues. And we didn't realize that this was a big issue in our state, that we have a lot of people that are staying in abusive relationships out of fear of harm to their family pet or household pet. And what this bill does, it allows the court to give possession of that household pet to the petitioner, not to the respondent. And in a lot of cases, it was very vague. The current statute was vague in itself, that they couldn't do anything with the family pet. So the goal of this was to prevent people from staying in these abusive relationships. And then House Bill 813 is protection of vulnerable investors. Try saying that 10 times in a row. It requires securities dealers, investment advisors, and associated persons to report knowledge of suspicion of abuse, neglect, or exploitation of a vulnerable adult to DCF. Basically, you're pausing a transaction that may not have the best interest in mind for that individual. They may be retired, they may not have have a set income, and there could be a huge withdrawal on the part of an individual. Maybe it's someone who's related to that individual. That gives the advisors the ability to pause that transaction, so that person isn't harmed to a point where they could be where they wouldn't be able to recover, if that makes any sense. And then I was able to, until today, I had 3 appropriations in the budget, but unfortunately all 3 were, as the governor said, this would be like the Red Wedding from was it Game of Thrones? And it was very much like that, because I've been talking with a lot of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and obviously for the right reasons, unfortunately, we have to make up for those shortfalls, and those appropriations did not make it. But next year, I'll be fighting for those. I'm here for any questions you may have. Mayor James, you're on mute. Sorry.
Thank you so much for all that you do. The most immediate question is, what is the Red Wedding reference? I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, so that's all right. I'll Google it. Listen, don't answer that. Okay. Thanks for all you do. You've been there for us, certainly on the fight to protect home rule. I know when we've had appropriation requests, you've also been there for us. You have been a true ally of the city up in Tallahassee, and I know it is not easy since you're a member of the minority party, but you continue to fight valiantly on our behalf, and I can't thank you enough. Commissioners, you have any questions, comments? Madam President.
Thank you, and thank you, Representative Silvers, for doing the work for us up in Tallahassee, and really fighting for that home rule is very important to us as well. I was wondering, with a lot of the news lately and policymakers really getting together on both sides of the aisle, if you could update us on any kind of policies or legislation that's going to start to address racial, social inequities, economic inequities, And how can the city of West Palm Beach assist you in moving that agenda forward?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Well, right now, since we are in the middle of a campaign season, we've got a primary in 6.5 weeks or 7 weeks, and we have a general election 8 weeks later. Unfortunately, we can't file any legislation. We can talk about potential ideas for legislation moving forward, at least for the next 5 months, or about 5 months, till we get through the general, and then we have organizational session with the swearing in the next class in the chamber. Now, as soon as that happens, we can file legislation as much as we can submit even to drafting as much as we want, and then we file the six bill slots that we have for that upcoming session for 2021. But I'd be happy to work with the entire commission to get something going, and at least maybe we could have a talk about any type of legislation moving forward, how we can address the social inequities in our state. And even though we're only a state legislature, these are issues that are nationwide, but it's time has come to address them now, and unfortunately hasn't been addressed for 150 years that we've been a state. But the goal is to get something on the books next year, and I think you'll see that coming forward in the upcoming session. I think there's going to be a wave, and it's a big change. Hopefully, a wave for the better.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any. So Representative, thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to join us and give us the update. And again, thank you for all that you do on behalf of the city of West Palm Beach. If you ever need anything from us, let us know. All right?
Thank you. Be safe.
Okay, very good. I see that we have the Supervisor of Elections who has joined us. Welcome, Supervisor. It's good to have you here tonight. And I know you have a presentation on the, where'd she go?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right. You're under my chat box. That's why I can't see. Anyway, so I know you have a presentation on the election. So please, and just know that West Palm Beach is committed to being your partner in communicating how West Palm Beach residents can participate in the upcoming election in this new era of COVID-19. So the Zoom is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. And first, I want to thank you because you did step up as our partner in March and are continuing to do that when I was seeking additional early voting sites. And so we did have an early voting site in your city hall in March, and it was actually one that got one of the highest reviews from our voters for being comfortable. And it was obviously because we hadn't had it before. It was a group of poll workers who had not yet worked together, and they just really gelled so much that they asked if they could stay together to do it again. So I think our West Palm Beach location was well received, and so we do have that again. I did want to let you know we've continued to expand our early voting sites because I think especially as we get into November and for those who choose to vote in person, it's going to be important to have as many locations as we can so that we can avoid the lines to the extent that we can. I mean, if you look back at presidential elections, historically, there's always a line early voting, you know, even when there's not, and on election day, even when we don't have COVID. But, you know, given that, we're going to do our best. So we have been pushing vote by mail, as you know, and I'd encourage you to encourage that with your citizens as well. This is not a political statement in any way. We're not saying to do it because it favors one party or the other. What I'm saying is COVID doesn't choose one party or the other. And for people who are vulnerable or who are afraid to get out, if we have another spike or things get tough as it gets closer to election day, we can't send out a vote by mail ballot after 10 days prior to the election. So that's what we found in March is COVID started spiking right about then, and it was too late for us to send those out to people. And so we had a lot of people coming by the office to pick them up, which of course had them standing in line at the office. So we are really pushing, letting people know just by getting your vote by mail ballot, if you choose on election day or as it gets closer that you would rather not do the vote by mail and you want to vote in person, you still can. So we're trying to make sure we get the word out that requesting vote by mail does not tie you to that. It just gives you an option because my goal is to get as many people out there to vote. It is postage prepaid for the first time this year. So it makes it very accessible for everybody. For those who have concerns and don't fully trust the post office, we have 18 early voting locations, and you are able to drop your vote by mail ballot at any one of the 18 early voting locations without standing in line. We have a separate line and a separate manned drop box just for that. Legislation does not permit us to do that on election day, unfortunately. So on election day, if one has waited that long, they'll need to drop it by one of our 4 locations in our offices. But we can do that. So we have postage prepaid. We're trying to make it easy for people, making it an option. They can still choose not to use it. Then guys, we now have 18 early voting sites. So we're spreading those out. We've extended that till 7 o'clock. So instead of 10 to 6, it's 10 to 7. And it will be for all 14 days in August, which was extended past, it had been 9 in the past 2 presidential elections for August. We've made that 14. Again, not that I expect there to be big lines in August, but I just want to spread it out as much as we possibly can. Then on election day, it is our goal. We are trying to keep as many of those sites available as we can. We have had some of our private locations have closed on us. I read in the paper today that my predecessor indicated we were down 200. I don't know where that information came from. We've never been down 200. The most we had at any one time that had said they didn't want us to come was 20. Right now we have that down to 12, but with about 8 or 9 of them still having to wait until they meet, and some of them are going to meet by the end of this month through their board of directors. So, you know, at most we may have 20 that close. We've never been looking at 200. So I hate that that information is out there making people nervous. I'd like to clarify that. And we are, for those locations, we are looking at other locations, working very closely with the school district. They've been very, very great partner with us. There will not be schools in session on that day. So we will have the ability, if we need to move folks out of locations because the location has canceled on us for whatever their internal policies are, we're going to need to move entire locations, and we will likely use a lot of the schools to do that. But we'll have voting locations for everybody. Our goal is to get those out by early July, so people will have at least a month's notice. Of course, we'll publish them in the paper, we'll publish them on our website, and we will send out new voter information cards for those who have to have changes. And also wanted to, if I have maybe one more minute, to give you a little bit on what we're doing with the COVID PPE. Would that be
Absolutely.
okay?
Yes.
So for PPE, for those who do choose to go vote in person, we want you to know that we have already received. We have, for our poll workers, we have the plexiglass shields that will separate the poll workers from the voters in every one of our locations. We also will have the poll workers that will have disposable thermometers. They will take their temperatures in the morning before they begin work. If anybody has a temperature, then we will send in a replacement for them. We want to make sure that we're keeping the poll workers safe and the voters safe. We have gloves. We have facial shields for the poll workers to make them more comfortable during the day. We also have masks. For the voters, we're asking everybody to bring their own mask, but for those who don't have them, we will have disposable masks available for the voters, as well as gloves if they would prefer to have gloves on as they sign it. We will have disposable pens that they can keep so that they're not having to use another, the same person, a pen that anybody else has used. We have laminated all of our secrecy sleeves. So after we finish using them, we'll be able to wipe them all down. So we've done a lot focused on the PPE to keep the voters safe. We will also be sending out individual sample ballots to everybody so that they'll have an opportunity to review it before they go into the polls. So hopefully with the social distancing, since we can have fewer polling booths set up because they all have to be at the 6 feet apart, we're hoping that we'll be able to keep the line moving because people will have seen their sample ballot. They'll know what they're voting on and hopefully get in and get out quickly. So we're working to try to keep people safe, whether they want to do it from home, whether they want to go to the polls, early voting, or on election day. So if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Fantastic. Again, Madam Supervisor, thank you for all that you have been doing. I know you got thrown into the fray quite suddenly. Sounds like you have fared quite well in that position, and I look forward to working with you, hopefully in the future, our city, to continue to be a partner of yours. Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Lambert has a question.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hi, Commissioner.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you so much for that presentation. It's really great to hear the extensive measures you're taking to help make sure that all of our voters are safe as we vote. My question was if you all are still looking for poll workers or volunteers for election days.
Yes, and it's actually not even volunteers. All of our poll workers are paid, and yes, we are looking for more poll workers. We, as you know, we had a lot of people who did cancel on our last election because they were concerned for their safety and their health, and I certainly understand that. So we have been, for the last several months, out looking hard. We're working with the school district. They sent out an email to 40,000 students for us that are juniors and seniors who would be able to pre-register or register to vote. And that's, of course, in an area and an age group that is tech savvy, as well as, doesn't have some of the vulnerable health issues. We are also working with a number of charities like Leadership and also Leadership Palm Beach County, a lot of the chambers, other civic groups, one of the Black sororities. We're working with some churches to try to do this adoptive precinct where they bring in some of their volunteers so that they can use their volunteer base during this time of COVID, where a lot of them have not used them as much. And then we will pay the charity for the same amount that we would have been paying for the poll workers. So it gives us some new poll workers. It gives the charities the opportunity to have exposure, because if they've adopted the precinct, they'll be able to wear their shirts, put their signs up and different things like that. So we're trying to just look at different ways to engage. Palm Beach State College has just today, I think, sent out something to all of its students. We don't often use college students because their schedules are not usually their own. And a lot of times you'll find a college student is very excited about doing it, but then it comes up in their professor schedules a paper due that day or the next, or an exam. And at the last minute, they have to cancel. So it's not always the best place to go for poll workers, but this year, Palm Beach State College won't be starting classes until August 30th. So we shouldn't have that problem. So we're working through them as well. So we're looking for all kinds of different angles to get new poll workers. And if you have any suggestions, we'd love them.
Great, I'll share that news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Madam Supervisor, thank you again for the presentation. It's good to hear that information. And best of luck to you. Stay safe.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Now, commissioners, it's time for comments from us. And we'll start, as we always do, with Madam President.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Starting off with some sad news this evening for the North End community. We lost one of our longtime residents, Myrna Sosner. Some of you may remember Myrna and Nancy. They were part of the pioneers of the Old Northwood community. They were very instrumental in coming to every first appearance, every code enforcement hearing, and making sure that the voices of their neighbors were heard. So unfortunately, we lost Myrna, who hadn't been doing well for a while at a young 88 years old this Thursday. So we will be, I'm sure, honoring her in some physically distanced sort of way throughout the North End. And we owe a lot to both her and Nancy, who also passed away a couple of years ago. Throughout the North End, Mayor, we continue to have issues stemming from St. Anne's on 20th Street, as well as a lot of homelessness issues throughout the entire North End. There are a number of tents going up. So I know we have some time that we were going to look at on an upcoming work session, but whatever we can do to address that in the meantime would be very welcome to the neighbors in the North End. I wanted to also let the public know, and I don't know if this will be later through your comments too, Mayor, the public meeting tomorrow for the plan development meeting for the text amendment, Article 7, Special District, Section 94-207. I've received a number of emails, as I'm sure other commissioners have as well, on the text amendment for the change in zoning. And I don't know if the public was aware of the meeting that will occur tomorrow at 5 p.m. via Zoom, so everyone can attend that. There were a number of communications that I had from residents indicating that they were not receiving updates about these types of meetings, as well as our CRA process and a number of different things. So Mayor, maybe if we could double down on some communications out to the public, as I know things are a little bit more stressed now that we're not at neighborhood meetings and making these announcements in more and more frequent places. It may be helpful to just get them out a number of times, as we're hearing that they're not getting through. So appreciate anything we can do in that regard. And lastly, I just wanted to wish everyone a very happy and safe 4th of July weekend, being physically safe, but close at heart to family, enjoying your time together and taking advantage of all the great activities that the city of West Palm Beach has put together in the DIY 4th of July. The West Palm Beach Eats program is still up for you to get a great meal at any local restaurant. If you need a referral, you can go to WPB.org and find a list of West Palm Beach Eats locations there. Many DIY 4th of July activities and front porch parties, just a number of ways that we can all come together as a community when we're not in the traditionally festive mood that we are. We can still have a celebration and remember that we have a lot of great freedoms and a lot of things to celebrate. So happy 4th of July, West Palm Beach, and stay safe.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Johnson, if you could make a note to have Armando Fana and Marcus Laws take a look. I know I've been communicating. I know Marcus has been out there several times to look at the homeless situation in Curry Park. I know there were some tents set up that I thought they were coming down. Anyway, if you could just make a note for them to follow up on that. St. Anne's continues to be a problem that we'll just have to discuss. And so we'll need to workshop that and come up with some options. Thank you, Commissioner. And we'll also have, I'll double check, Armando, if you're on the phone, double check with Jose Tagle to make sure he has, because he has a very extensive email list, that he has information about these various meetings, and hopefully he's doing email blasts in conjunction with our communications team. Armando, please check that. Okay, thank you, Commissioner, for all that. Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few thank yous and then a few questions for you or staff. First, just want to say thank you. I brought an idea to Administrator Johnson a few weeks ago from the school district. They had identified a number of hotspots throughout the county, and there were some in the city of West Palm Beach where students had not logged in to their district issued mobile devices and laptops since distance learning started in March. And so it's my understanding that city staff is working with the district to identify places where we can help extend these wireless connections so that students can gain access to the internet. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. Also a thank you to our EOC staff and to the Palm Beach County Healthcare District for providing free testing at Phipps Park this Wednesday. It's for West Palm Beach residents, as well as we're trying to make sure that we reach Spanish-speaking residents as well in the community. So just wanted to give a reminder. I hope we're providing this information in Spanish as well. And if we do have that, and I could get a copy, I'd be happy to share that with my connections as well. As we're all very aware of, our COVID numbers are still rising in Palm Beach County. And just a reminder that, you know, everyone follows social distancing rules, wearing a mask and hand washing, it is as important as ever now. And with that, I know we're still continuing to have our Zoom meetings. Mayor, I appreciate, I did see it, it seemed like we doubled down on communication efforts to make sure that the public knew how to participate in meetings via Zoom or by showing up at the commission chambers and safely being able to share public comment. So I appreciate that. And now comes my two questions. And this is related to community meetings and community outreach. The first that I wanted to bring up was in March, we passed the parks bond, but we've been busy with a lot of other things since then. And I was just wondering if we could get information out to the community about the community meetings that we promised them we would have about the parks bond. And my second question has to do with the item that Commissioner Stoff brought up as well, as I have received a number of phone calls as well as emails regarding the zoning code amendment for plan development. And the one question that I have about this is that folks are concerned that their voice will not be heard at this community meeting. And so I was wondering if staff is able to describe what that process will look like at the 5 p.m. meeting tomorrow.
All right, let's take those in order. Armando, can you speak to the parks bond and the community engagement and community meetings we plan on having around those?
Yes, Mayor. So the parks bond, as you know, was just passed in March. The issuance of the bond will be taking place in the next couple months. We have a time frame that we're going to, actually a timetable that we're going to send out. We're putting together. August 29th is when we expect, around the end of August, to get the proceeds. So the process of then doing community meetings and actual projects will then take place over the following 2 to 3 years. So this is not an overnight process. There's a long laundry list of projects. So we'll be, by the end of this week, we'll have a schedule, estimated schedule out that we'll be able to provide to the city commissioners and to the residents, and we'll post online as well. But this is definitely a marathon and not a race. It'll take a while to get all the projects underway. We'll begin to do some of that community engagement on the parks within the next 60 days or so.
Okay, and on the process for public comment tomorrow night, Mr. Green, can you speak to that, please?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. We sent out a notice weeks ago to all the neighborhood association presidents. This was an item that we took to the planning board a while ago. It will ultimately make it to the city commission. That date scheduled. We're not in a rush. So I will presentation tomorrow night. It's a Zoom meeting. As part of the notice that we sent out, there is Zoom information for all the residents so they can join the meeting just like people are doing tonight. And there's also a telephone number where they can call in. But really the purpose of the meeting is to explain what we are proposing to do. There's a lot of bad information out there right now that we hope to dispel with the presentation tomorrow. After we receive comment, then we'll make a decision as to when we bring it forward to the commission, but there's no rush on our part to do that.
Okay, very good. Follow up,
Mayor,
Commissioner?
Yes, if you don't mind, if I could clarify. So thank you, Mr. Green. Will residents be able to ask questions on that Zoom meeting tomorrow?
Absolutely. This is public comment. We're not taking vote. We're simply getting input on what we are proposing, but I'm going to walk through what the proposal is so everybody fully understands it. I encourage people to call me. Angela Van, our planning and zoning administrator, and I have fielded calls. And the majority of the time, once we explain what we are proposing to do, people have a much better understanding.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Green.
Anything else, Commissioner?
No, thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Nearing.
No comment.
Commissioner Peduzzi.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to share with everyone that I attended an impromptu meeting last night at one of the restaurants in our city. It was well attended by several of our community leaders, including our police chief. Apparently a customer was upset because she felt that her family had received some bad service, and it was her feeling that it was motivated by racism. We had a good discussion, got a little heated at times, but I think we moved the conversation forward, at least with regard to her specific concerns in that specific restaurant. But that got me thinking, and I think I learned something last night, that while we may not be able to change the world at one time or overnight, we can take small steps toward making our communities a better place and a more inclusive place through small meetings like this, through one-on-one, small group meetings in our restaurants, in our communities, in our neighborhoods. And I think it goes a long way toward moving this issue forward. and making our communities more inclusive places to be for all of our citizens. So I just wanted to share that with everyone, that it did open my eyes a little bit, that, you know, it seems like sometimes the problem's overwhelming, and you know, even talking to some of our police officers, they're like, we can deal with what's happening here in our city, but how do I talk to people about what's happening in Atlanta or is happening somewhere else? And I think really, you know, that's tough, because it's something that we have difficulty addressing, because we feel like there's not a whole heck of a lot we can do, but we can do something. We can start with our own small communities, and we can start in our own backyards, and we can have this dialogue. So I wanted just to share that with my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Mayor. For the last several months, as you know, I've been leading the city's COVID-19 response team for food, water, and medicine. And I think we're all obviously watching these COVID numbers continue to increase. And with that, the food insecurity issues are increasing as well. The pandemic has intensified the already existing crisis in food insecurity, with some saying that the projected spike in hunger will be greater than anything that we've seen since the Great Depression. So whether residents have lost a job due to COVID, or left a job to homeschool their kids, or many others that are struggling in other ways, I just wanted to acknowledge tonight to our residents that we recognize how great the need continues to be, and that we are continuing to work with partners around the city to implement and share programs that are available to help. Many of those resources can be found by visiting our website at WPB.org. Our food response team has been so fortunate and to have two incredible nonprofit leaders who are working with us on the hunger relief issues, and they've really stepped up to advise us since early March. Karen Aaron, she is the executive director of the Palm Beach County Food Bank. I know many of you have all worked with her. She does some incredible food drives throughout our city. So she announced last week that she's leaving her position to move to the Northeast to be a little bit closer to her kids. She has been an incredible leader for our community and for our city. During COVID-19, she led the food bank in distributing 3 times the volume of food to provide for the increased need. Just an example is the food bank typically would distribute 5 million pounds of food annually. And this May alone, they distributed 1.5 million pounds just in the month of May. So she has been just invaluable in introducing us to contacts of the United Way and other places in the county, and just so generous with her time. So I'm so sorry that she will be leaving our city. Our community, has been served so well by her. So I just wanted to take, a couple moments to publicly thank her for supporting this team and, all the things that she's doing in our city, and wishing her well. So then I also thought it would, wanted to take a minute to recognize Maura Plant from Living Hungry, who has been our other team member on our food team. She continues to be our day-to-day partner every day since March, assisting our residents with finding resources and bringing this incredible partnership with the USDA to our city. We have, for the past 4 weeks, been able to distribute 1,900 food boxes each week using the city's golf course. We have various nonprofits and other organizations throughout the city that are coming and picking up 100 or 200 boxes at a time, and they're able to turn around and donate those to their members and other neighbors in need throughout the city to kind of help us reach those who are really struggling the most. And the USDA just came back to invite us to participate for 8 more weeks with this program till the end of August. So one small housekeeping note that the city attorney suggested that I bring to my remarks tonight, that in order to facilitate these food distributions, Living Hungry is in need of borrowing a forklift and a driver every Wednesday for about 5 hours. And it's imperative that we continue to support the community with these food efforts. So I would like to make a motion tonight to declare the use of city employees and equipment needed to facilitate the food distributions within the city of West Palm Beach as a public purpose, and in order to be able to just continue to use this equipment for these food distributions. And so I believe that I needed to call a motion, and hope that I can get a second, I guess.
It's not typical to take motions during commissioner comment, but if you bookmark that thought, we'll make sure that we get it when we get into the body of the agenda.
Okay, that would be great. I think, and yeah, the city attorney, I think, sent an email just asking that I make those remarks. So wasn't clear when to make them, but.
Well, and that's fine. That's fine. But we will certainly get to that when we get to the body of the agenda.
Okay, good. And I just have a few more things.
No, take your time.
So I wanted to thank Maura Plant so much. And, I also wanted to just take a moment to thank Lisa Kemp and Tiffany David from the city staff for working with us. I think it's just so much to ask for people to take on almost another full-time job on top of the jobs that they have. And, I think I probably speak for everyone on this dais that, the city staff has really just been excellent and amazing and going above and beyond. And I'm so grateful. So I wanted to say that. And then finally, I wanted to say thank you to Leah Rockwell and the whole Parks and Rec team. I'm so glad that we're declaring July the Parks and Rec month. Our city parks, our events such as 4th on Flagler and the Green Market, these are some of the reasons that people come to our city. This is why our city is so special. I hear all the time from young families that, these are the reasons that they chose West Palm Beach over another city. I love our city events. I can tell time sort of with the stack of 4th on Flagler shirts that I have in my drawers dating back from 2003 when I was working beer trucks with West Palm 100 and other, charities raising money. So I just, over the last few months, I know the events have been put on hold, but our parks have offered residents, a place to get out of the quarantining and enjoy the beauty of our city. And they have also been the location of many of our food distributions. Members of the Parks and Rec team have transitioned from using their event planning skills and volunteer coordinating skills to helping plan logistics and confirm volunteers for us so that we can continue to help those that are struggling. So I just want to say thank you to the Parks and Rec team. I will miss the 4th on Flagler this year. I think we all will, but looking forward to the party on the porch and the DIY events in my own home and wishing everyone a safe and happy 4th of July. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I just want to make a few comments. Just a reminder that Palm Beach County issued an emergency order requiring masks and face coverings in all unincorporated and unincorporated areas of the county. And I cannot overemphasize this point, but given the spike in the numbers, we really need people to follow the CDC guidelines, including social distancing, wearing masks, washing hands, etc., to prevent the spread of COVID-19. We were doing so well in March when this thing first hit us. It seems that maybe some complacency has set in, but we cannot overemphasize the fact that we all need to be in this together to help us save lives. And by working together, we can overcome COVID-19. So please, please, please abide by the CDC guidelines. And just did want to, and I mentioned, actually the chief mentioned this last week about the hashtag 8can'twait. And as he mentioned that the city's police department has been compliant with these, the hashtag 8can'twait campaign, which is aimed to reduce killings by police and save lives through the adoption of more restrictive use force policies. Our department has had these in place for some time, and we were a bit ahead of the curve. The 8 policies, which have already been adopted by the West Palm Beach Police Department, include banning of chokeholds and strangleholds, requiring de-escalation, requiring warning before shooting, exhausting all alternatives before shooting, imposing on officers a duty to intervene, banning shooting at moving vehicles, and requiring comprehensive reporting, establishing a use of force continuum as well. And in November of last year, the police department established a use of force review board, which reviews any use of force involving a minor, discharge of a firearm, serious injury, and this was done at the direction of the chief. So there is still work to be done, not only in criminal justice. And so I have, and I did announce this last week, by virtue of an executive order, which I will be issuing later this week, I'm establishing a mayor's task force on racial and ethnic equality to look at a number of different areas. Historic, we need a lesson on where we've been in terms of racial and ethnic inequalities in our city, understand best practices, and they will be charged with making specific policy recommendations to this body. So that will be issued this week. The other thing I want to bring to attention is that as commissioners, sometimes you are asked to make appointments to various citizens advisory boards that you're involved with. And I recently learned that an appointment that was made by Commissioner Nearing to the Citizen Advisory Committee of the TPA actually voted against the city's position on the extension of State Road 7, which boggled my mind. And I just want to reemphasize, commissioners, those citizens' appointments should be taken very, very seriously. It just doesn't make sense to have one of our citizens who's been appointed by a TPA member take an action which is inconsistent with the vote of the TPA members on the board. That it makes no sense to show that kind of division between the city, the city commission, and resolutions adopted by the city and the citizens. So I would ask you, Commissioner Nearing, if you still support the city's position in opposition to the extension, please ask that appointee's resignation and submit another name for the CAC. That is, in my view, that's unacceptable to have that citizen acting inconsistent with formal resolutions that this board has adopted. In closing, I'd like to wish everybody a happy and safe Independence Day. You know, it's a great opportunity for reflection about where we are, from whence we've come and where we want to be as a nation. And obviously, in light of current times, there is a lot of work to be done. And as has been alluded to earlier, we will not be hosting Fourth on Flagler as we have in past years. Instead, we're encouraging everyone to host a DIY party on the porch. You can visit WPB.org/events for more information. We're still going to have fireworks, which will be launched around 9 p.m. from undisclosed locations. We're encouraging everybody to tune into WPBF at 9 p.m. to see the fireworks show. And we will also pay tribute to the city's 125th anniversary. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Okay, Commissioner Nearing, you have a comment?
I do. Thank you. So, you know, I appreciate that I guess we're using public comment to vet these issues. I've been in touch with Administrator Johnson, and she sent me an email, I guess about a week and a half ago. And we have been working to figure out how that happened. So I appreciate your comments, but I do take pause at using commission comments to make such a broad statement when behind the scenes we're working through this process. So I think it's disingenuous to in any way make a comment about State Road 7 and that I would submit a name of someone who would be taking a different approach to that. It makes no sense. I've been on TPA for 2 years and I've been consistent in where I stand regarding State Road 7. So the issue that I take with the comment, Mayor, with all due respect, is that behind the scenes, I'm working with your city administrator on that process. I don't know how that happened. That never came to this commission to be ratified. So again, the issue that I have with that, again, is that we're using this time. And as the mayor, obviously, in public comment, you can make that, but that has a cascading effect. And I think that is, that's disingenuous. That's not the front that I've taken. That's not the approach I've taken on this issue. I would prefer a resolution around seeking to better understand it, as opposed to just make that broad statement as if I just, just appoint anyone to these commissions or to these advisory committees. I didn't even realize I had the opportunity to do that. So, and I've communicated as such to the city. So I want to go on record that I am against State Road 7, have always been against State Road 7, the extension of it. And am trying to figure out how that situation took place regarding the TPA. I thought that was clear between myself and the city administrator. If it was not clear, I am now making myself clear around that issue.
Well, I mean, I saw an email from you to the executive director of the TPA issuing the appointment. So I'm not sure what's not clear as to whether I use this platform or not. I mean, there's no rules as to what we can talk about. It's a comment. Obviously, State Road 7 is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. I too have been fighting that battle, and I'm just trying to hopefully understand, reach a resolution as to, and it's really the broader comment, because there are other boards and committees that commissioners make appointments to. And I'm just saying, please be sensitive that when you're making that kind of appointment, hopefully you're getting someone who is friendly to the policies of our city. So that's why, as to whether I should use this platform or another platform is really irrelevant to the point that was being made, that this appointment was made by you, and this person voted adverse to the interests of the city. So, okay, budget update. City Administrator Johnson, is it Finance Director?
There's going to be a combination of myself and the Finance Director. Mr. Mayor, members of the board, if I can get started, I would proceed. Give me just a moment. And I have to minimize this. I'm getting my lesson in technology here. Okay, so on the June 24th work session agenda, we initially had an update on the FY20 budget. That information did not come together as we had hoped, so that item was taken off the agenda. So I'm going to give the board sort of a high-level overview of where we are with our current budget, which is fiscal year 20. And then we will go through the information in detail at your July 8th work session. So as the board is aware, COVID-19, and this line is taken from the update that Mr. Parks presented at your last meeting. It has caused instability in our current year revenues. And you heard Representative Silver talk about some of the action that the governor had to take as it relates to the state budget, because the state, as is all municipalities in the state, as well as probably the country, are grappling with this very issue. So we are continuing to monitor the financial impacts of the pandemic and maintaining freezes on expenditures that we put in place back in early March. The board saw this slide at the May 26th work session as part of the presentation I made to the board. Some of the measures that we put in place was a hiring freeze, travel freeze, training freeze, and to review certain requests on a case-by-case basis, and then to make strategic exceptions. The intent of putting the freeze on expenditures was in an effort to help us generate as much savings as we could in this year's budget to help absorb some of the increases that we are experiencing related to COVID-19, and then the overtime costs related to fire services. So the intent was to use any savings to help go toward our unassigned fund balance reserves. So as we have continued to look at our revenue projections, working with each department, having them to go back and do recalculations of their individual revenues for the general fund. Finance did an independent recalculation of all of the revenues. And so we reconcile the two. Based on that, we're projecting that our revenues for this year for the general fund will be significantly lower than the revenues that were levels that were budgeted for this year in the current budget. And that shortfall is projected to be in the ballpark of 6.5 million, which is a big hit. So by category, in terms of the categories where the revenue shortfall is projected to be $500,000 and higher, and I think it goes up to as high as 3 million in one category. So these are the 5 categories where we are projecting to have those revenue impacts or shortfalls. It's in other taxes, licenses and permits, our intergovernmental revenue, as well as charges for services, and in our miscellaneous revenue. So in terms of the tentative plan of action, what staff is proposing, and I have had ongoing discussions with the mayor to offset the projected $6.5 million shortfall with our expenditure savings. At this point, we are still calculating and projecting what we anticipate those savings to be, and that will depend on how well we do with holding the line on spending general fund dollars throughout the end of the fiscal year. So using unassigned fund balance to cover any further gap. As an example, if at the end of the day, we're able to have a savings in the general fund of 4 million, that means that 2.5 million, we would have to look to the unassigned fund balance to cover that gap. As an option, if that's not a strategy that the board is inclined to support, we will be looking at implementing across the board furlough days immediately, and that would translate into about 5 days per employee between probably mid-July and the end of September. That is not an option that I would recommend to the board, particularly when we look at our group of employees who happen to be on the lower rung of the pay scale. Losing 5 days of pay, I think, puts them in a very vulnerable position, and we would hope that that is not the option that we have to pursue in order to balance out the current year's budget. So in terms of next steps, as I indicated, we have a July 8th budget work session, which is intended to be on fiscal year 21 projected budget. What I am planning to do as part of that work session is to start it out with a detailed presentation on the FY20 projected shortfall and expenditure savings so that the board would be up to speed on the various categories that I articulated, where we're anticipating those shortfalls, and then to look at on the expenditure side of the operation, how much we are projecting to have in savings. And in addition to that, to look at our unassigned fund balance and emergency reserves based on the fiscal year 19 CAFR. I would like to point out to the board that our CAFR is due on the 31st of March. Our CAFR this year was just completed, which was June 19th. So at the point that I did my May 26th presentation to the board, there was a slide in there that indicated fund balance, unassigned reserve, and emergency reserves to highlight those two parts of the fund balance, which potentially would have to be looked at in the event that the shortfall was so great that we could not absorb it from cost savings. That slide is what the board saw back at the May 26th work session. Again, if you look at the timing at which the presentation was made to the board on May 26th, obviously it was not based on the FY19 CAFR because the CAFR was just distributed far after the May 26th work session presentation. If I can draw the board's attention to the FY20 column, the line that indicates actual has an asterisk. And that asterisk, if you go down to the red circle at the bottom of your screen, it indicates an estimate and that the CAFR will provide the actual number, and that number is expected to be higher. If you look at the column for fiscal year 21, it indicates projected. There was no way that back at May 26, not having the fiscal year 19 CAFR, that I was in a position to give a presentation to the board based on actuals that would come out of the fiscal year 19 CAFR, as seemed to be intimated by the email that the board received on Friday. So again, the CAFR is due on March 31st. It was completed just a week or so ago on June 19th, which was well after the May 26th budget workshop, which again, the numbers that was presented to you were estimates which were to be updated based on the completion of the CAFR. The mayor and I met with our external auditor, our SM, and we had a discussion about the completion of our CAFR. And it is not the first time that the CAFR has been completed well after the March 31st due date. So that is something that we're going to be looking at to take the measures that we need to take to the extent that we can to get the CAFR completed, if not before, but certainly by that March 31st deadline. So at this point, Mr. Parks, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Parks is going to pick up this part of the presentation, and then I'll wrap up after he's finished.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to clarify two things. I believe Ms. Johnson is speaking of the time when she received the CAFR. We have two dates that we adhere to as it relates to the CAFR. One is for the GFOA, where we get the Certificate of Excellence, and that due date is March 31st. We did have the opinion dated March 31st. So as far as GFOA is concerned, we are in compliance. And as it relates to the overall financial statements, according to Florida Statute 218-39, is due on June 30th, which we are in compliance there. I don't want our investors or our rating agencies to, think that we're out of compliance. So I just want to clear that up. As it relates,
Mr. Park, before you finish, let me just make a footnote and thank you for explaining that. As an administrator, The part of the CAFR that I deal with is the financial statement, looking at fund balances and all of that. So I have to reprogram how I couch that because that's what I zero in on. Thank you for bringing that to the board's attention.
You're welcome. And as it relates to Mr. Green's email, as Administrator Johnson had mentioned, we in theory agree with his approach. However, the numbers that he used were almost 2 years old. So he used this slide here that talks about the fund balance, and these are the fund balance numbers as of September 30th, 2018. What Ms. Johnson has been
Those numbers
using,
are not visible. I can't see those.
Oh, you can't?
Mark, did you screen share?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see.
While you're looking for those, I have a question from the commission president. Madam President, did this relate to Ms. Johnson's presentation or something else?
Yes, it relates to Administrator Johnson's presentation. When we're talking about, well, up to you, Mayor. I mean, I can ask it as a general question as to not disrupt the stream of thought here because it goes back to the FY20 budget.
All right, well, let's get through this, and then if you want to bookmark that, and then she can put that screen back up.
Can you see it now, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So here are the numbers that Mr. Green had used, and this is from Budget and Brief from last year. So the way the fund balances work is we calculate the fund balance at the year end every year, and that is, what these numbers are based on. So Mr. Green's numbers are based on 2018, September 2018. So here's a page from the CAFR, and you see that those numbers that he used are here. So that's from 2018. So that's why his numbers were off. That 22 million number that he was using was not the correct number. I don't know if there's any other questions on that.
Commissioner Schoaf, do you want us to go back now?
She wanted to go back to your presentation.
It doesn't really require a slide. Thank you, Mayor. My question was, we're looking at FY20 and having a discussion of a $6.5 million shortfall for FY20. So for this current budget year is what we'll be discussing in an upcoming budget presentation. I understood that correctly, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I know there were a number of options there, and I was just curious if at that presentation, we could take a look to say what has yet been unspent in the budget this year to see if there are places where we have potential cost savings if we discontinued select programs or services. Again, I understand there's a city to run and residents to serve, and I want to make sure that we're mindful of that and finding some way to strike a balance, because I'd really like to avoid a furlough situation if at all possible, which economically damages our employees and provides less service to our residents in turn there. So, I know usually this practice doesn't happen until the end of the year to see what would roll over to the following year. But if there's any way to gauge that amongst departments, if there are any unused categories of spend that would represent, at least in part, some of that $6.5 million, then maybe there's a solution that is partial savings by not continuing with programs that are, could be put on hold or, delayed in some other fashion, as well as using some sort of reserves that we have to, just to kind of give a level set to the whole conversation to say what can be not spent going forward, as well as then what would remain unfunded.
Certainly, that will be part of the presentation. We will detail out for the board the various categories, and in some instances, we will go into a line item detail that have been put on hold and expenditures have been frozen. We will also detail out for the board where those exceptions have been made. And I'll give you an example. Right now, we have the summer camps that are taking place. So the departments, or I'll use Park and Rec in that particular example. Parks and Rec has been given the approval to determine the ongoing items that are needed to run the summer camp. And they have developed what that estimated amount will be. And they have been given approval to purchase those particular items because they are deemed to be essential to keep the camp running. Anything outside of items that have been deemed essential to keep ongoing services, those items have to be submitted directly to the Assistant City Administrator for review, and then on to me for either approval or to deny it. And we can provide that kind of information as part of the July 8th work session.
Thank you. Just a follow-up, if I may, Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. I think Administrator Johnson, that information is important. The information too that I was seeking is to say, if there was a cost savings amongst budget items because Clematis by Night did not take place, that equaled a cost savings of X dollars. If there's a cost savings because certain positions weren't hired and will not be hired, there's a cost savings in our current budget for that, and get a total number category by category that perhaps that adds up to several $1 million, which reduces the shortfall because they will be items not purchased in the budget.
Okay, yes, again, we're going to provide the information two ways. By category, so it would be projected savings from, let's say, personnel, because we have X number of vacant positions that are not going to be filled. A freeze has been put in place. So based on that, we're projecting X amount of cost savings. We have travel that has been put on hold. And across the board, we're projecting that we're going to have X amount of savings from travel. So the board will see that by category. What I am intending to do, and certainly this can be changed, it's not cast in stone, where we have categories where expenditures have been approved to continue, to go into a bit of explanation to the board why the determination was made that those were essential or vital expenses that needed to occur and could not be put on hold. So we're looking to provide both.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Neering, you had a comment, question?
I did. I know at one point in time, I think it was one of the commissioners had asked if we could have a breakdown, approximate breakdown of the shortfall, what was COVID related versus non-COVID related. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen that documented. Did you talk about the timeline when we might be able to see that information?
You are correct in that you have not seen that document. We are still putting that document together, and we're going to provide it to the board in two forms. One will be in a report format so that the board will have that in advance of the July 8th meeting. And it will essentially detail out what you're going to hear by way of a presentation at your July 8th meeting. It will identify which one of those revenue streams is impacted by COVID-19, and then the revenue streams that are impacted by a different phenomenon that's taking place. For example, when we look at interest earning, that impact has to do with the drop in interest rate. So that will be highlighted. So the board will have that in a report format prior to the July 8th meeting to give the board an opportunity to look at that, digest that, to be prepared for that discussion when we get into the work session. And that will be coming out sometime probably early next week.
Okay, Mr. Parks, continue. Or was there anything else in your presentation?
I think Mr. Parks is completed. He just
Okay.
wanted to put that, the information that was sent to the board in context. But Mayor, I would like to just take a point of professional privilege and speak to you and the board. In my professional experience, it is abnormal for a predecessor to inject their recommendations on how a sitting administrator should present a budget or a presentation to their elected body. I will tell you that as the outgoing county administrator for St. Lucie County, I lived in that community for a year and a half. Not one single time did I make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners about whatever was presented by my successor. Not one time did I agree to an interview from the press to make comments about an issue or an action that was facing the Board of County Commissioners. And I did not do that for this very reason. In my training as an administrator through ICMA, which is the International City Management Association, one of the principles that they have us to subscribe to is that once you are relinquished from that seat through your own accord or other means, it is inappropriate for you to then inject into the business because of your having been the outgoing administrator. So I continue to be maybe kind of befuddled about the anomalies that I see as it relates to how certain things are done here, unfortunately, at our city. With that being said, I will tell you that I am not in a position to consider a recommendation from my predecessor on how I operate as your city administrator. I think that you, as the mayor, evaluate my performance on a day-to-day basis, and I've come to know that you have high expectation. I don't have one doubt in my mind that if you felt I was giving you inaccurate information, that I was not doing the necessary due diligence to get up to speed on the issues that I bring before this board, that you would not hesitate to bring that to my attention, and nor do I want you to. But as it relates to this budget, while I'm not in a position to say from an 8-year perspective of what should or shouldn't be done, I can talk from a 35-year body of work in municipal government. And I want to just make one point here. The success of my career is bookmarked by two things that I worked very hard for and I'm very proud of. And that is, at the beginning of my career, I was in a 2-year city management training program for the city of Rockville, who at that time was an all-American city. I was housed in the budget office. The city manager made certain that as an intern, we were well trained on municipal finance and budgeting. That first year of my internship, going into the second year, I was selected as the intern of the year for the country, primarily because of work that I did on the budget. If I look at my career prior to coming to West Palm in St. Lucie County, having taken over the helm during the Great Recession, in 2011, I received 2 prestigious awards related specifically to my work on the budget for that county and that community. One was the County Leader of the Year, which was a national award, and then one from the Florida City and County Management Association for Program Excellence. Both of those awards, prestigious awards, had to do with my handling of the budget. So I don't want the board to have an iota of a concern that I don't have experience in municipal finances and budgeting. I think I come well-trained, well-experienced, and that doesn't mean that I know all of the answers, but one of the things that I pride myself on, if I don't know, I'm gonna tell you that. If I make a mistake, I'm gonna tell you that. But I am not going to accept recommendations from my predecessor. I'm not going to do that. Thank you for allowing me that professional privilege to just make my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, and let me state very clearly for the record that I have the utmost confidence in you and your capabilities, 100%.
Thank you, Mayor.
Is that the end of the budget update?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We have a consent calendar, items 4 through 10. Is there a motion for approval or any questions?
Mr. Mayor, before I proceed, I have a public comment to be played for item number 8 on the consent agenda.
Item 8, okay.
Public comment for item 8. And the host moderator will play the comment.
Okay.
Hello, this is Leah Gaines calling. I'm calling to speak to resolution number 193-20 and 194-20F. What my comments are that I'm strongly urging that you go out for a competitive solicitation to implement this grant. There is an underlying fiscal impact beyond just the expenditure of the grant funding, and that is what is the expenditure of the underlying provider that you're requesting that be extended to do this work. There's nothing on the backup that shows us that. We don't know if it will be an extension of that contract. We don't even know who the provider is. It's not even transparent from the agenda item. In addition, I do think that the timetable that you have to complete the grant, which is about 1.5 years, is sufficient time for you to go out to a competitive solicitation, as well as this does not comply with the sole source definition for procurement in the city of West Palm Beach. It looks as though it's something that's convenient, and I think that right now the time is right for there to be more transparency in how we're collecting the crime statistics and incident reports in the city of West Palm Beach, as well as who are the implementers, so that we can, the public, ensure quality assurance and accuracy in doing that. Thank you very much. Leah Gaines.
Thank you. Any other comments on any of the items on the consent? Okay, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent calendar.
All right, it's motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Lambert, you got a question?
Sure, I just had a question regarding Ms. Gaines' comment. So if we approve this today, does that still allow us time to discuss her suggestion?
Well, this motion includes a sole source. So if you approve it, it means that it will be a sole sourced, as opposed to an RFP.
I would just, I'm not saying I'm in favor or not of that. I would just like the opportunity to discuss and maybe hear from staff why it was a sole source versus an RFP.
Is there anyone from staff that can speak to, I don't know if anyone from procurement is here or legal that could speak to why this is set up as a sole source? All right, Kim?
Mayor, all I have is the backup that's in the item itself, the resolution. What I would say is that this resolution, like any resolution, I suppose if you all decided as a body was inappropriate, could be substituted with a different resolution. So there should be no reason why you couldn't go forward today and in the future, if we haven't yet signed a contract, do something different if that's what the body decides to do.
Well, I think it's fair to ask the justification for the sole source recommendation.
Yeah, and Nancy's available also. I think she might have some more information on this item.
This is a request. This is Nancy Yurchek. This is a request from the police department. They felt that it was necessary and it would be most efficient to use their current provider given the time, because it is a bit of a project that you put out a solicitation and get somebody new who was not familiar with their current system and how it works. And my understanding is it's a little bit complicated. Their fear was that they would not be able to spend the grant funds in the required time frame. So this is something that they've talked to the federal government about this. They've the forms and this process is what the federal government suggested that they do. The city isn't making the final sole source determination. This is just a recommendation to request the feds to approve our sole source, a request to do a sole source, but the final decision will be up to the federal government.
Okay. Commissioner Lambert, does that address your concern?
I have a follow-up question, Mayor. What is the typical length for an RFP process for something like this?
Currently, it can be 6 to 9 months.
I see that Amy Simmet from the police department is on, but maybe she could speak to this, and then Commissioner Neering has a question. Officer Simmet, can you speak to the rationale for the sole source? And
yes, this is part of a much larger project. All of our record systems for the entire police department is one provider, which is OSSI or SunGuard. They've been bought a few different times, but this is a feature that is included in our contract with them. The only thing that is being sole sourced is the training of our officers and our record staff in using the system and the changes that are necessary for that sole source. And then there is another aspect of crime analysis that's a separate project that they were allowing us to be reimbursed on. It doesn't prevent us next year from, if we want to look at another provider, from doing that, but we have to give 6 months of less than 4% error rate to successfully complete this grant. So there just isn't enough time with a January 1, our hope is to start January 1 of next year with reporting formally.
okay, thank you for that information. Commissioner Lambert, any other questions? Okay,
No,
Commissioner
Mayor.
Neering, you had a question?
I did. So do we know when the appropriate, from a timing standpoint, many of my questions were answered in Commissioner Lambert's question, but now that we brought up the fact that we can look at in subsequent years a different approach to this. So if we were to back into that, what does the timing for that look like?
It took several years when we switched systems the last time. And so I would say it's a multi-year project to do a transition. There's at least a year worth of investigation into what's available and what would meet our needs to set out what we would want out of an RFP. But additionally, as part of this project, the state of Florida is looking at a statewide RMS system that will be compliant with this project that we want to evaluate because it might be available to us at a greatly reduced price after they've successfully implemented NIBRS.
Madam President, you had a question?
Thank you, Mayor. I think there was a lot of things that were answered there, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding what we're saying here. So for this grant, it's a piece of a larger puzzle, which is all record keeping. And it sounds like really the RFP opportunity is for all record keeping as that contract comes up down the line. So this is just a piece of the puzzle of which later on down the line, we would look at bidding out the entire puzzle.
Yes, if the change became necessary or there were other opportunities to reduce costs to the city, then we could look at that. There's nothing that prevents us from changing vendors.
Sure. And so this represents if there's, it represents possibly losing out on the opportunity for nearly $70,000 in grant funding at this day today, but also keeping that opportunity open to do that bid process on the much larger opportunity down the line.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Any other items in consent? All right, we did have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you call roll?
You said there was a motion and second, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, the motion was made by, who made the motion?
I just don't recall hearing a motion.
Commissioner Fox, you made the motion?
Commissioner Peduzzi did, and I was,
Commissioner Peduzzi, seconded by Fox, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Neering,
Yay.
Commissioner Schoaf,
Yay.
Commissioner Lambert,
Yay.
Commissioner Peduzzi,
Yay.
Commissioner Fox.
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for comments from the public for non-agenda items. I understand we have quite a crowd down in the chambers.
At last count, Mr. Mayor, according to the host moderator, there were 17 public comments, so I'll turn it over to the host.
Okay.
I had the clock set up, but I'm not sure what happened. Maybe the battery because it wasn't used for a long time. So I'm gonna time with my phone, the 3 minutes for each speaker.
Okay. Put it close to the camera so we can see it. Mr. Host, you're coordinating comments down there?
Yes, the tech is on his way down now. One of them is a video presentation, so I'll go ahead and launch that first while he is heading downstairs.
Okay.
This one's going to block out your camera, Madam Clerk, but it's 2 minutes and 58 seconds, so we should be okay.
Okay.
One moment. And this comment is from Kirk Gillon.
Look now at a reminder that when there's dialogue, there can be an easing of dissension. When there's understanding, there can be unity. A powerful moment coming up.
Absolutely, and we're going to show it to you right now. It was just on a Facebook Live a few moments ago. This is in Boca Raton at the Glades Road. The street, and here you can see what happened when they all took a knee.
Yes. Is it?
Gas. We're gonna start throwing gas out here. You don't want to be around.
Those allegations that the West Palm Beach Police Department instigated the confrontation is 100% false.
For an epic selfie. No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace!
Please
police now have come in, or now brought in the shields.
Officer Elvey of the West Palm Beach Police Department. As the declared unlawful assembly fully dispersed and to depart the you will be arrested subject to other police action. Other police action may include the use of less lethal munition, which could cause significant risk of injury to those who remain. Chapter 8.
I said 3 minutes.
Okay. Next comment.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting the live comments queued up right now.
Okay.
You have the next person, Jason?
Brian is getting them to the podium at this moment. Hang on one moment, please. Having a slight technical difficulty. One moment, please. My apologies, Mayor. Somebody closed the laptop in Flagler Gallery, so Brian's having to restart it. It may take a few minutes.
Are we ready downstairs?
One moment, Mayor.
All right, well, let's, Commissioner Fox is back. Can we take her motion, at least get that handled, please? Commissioner Fox, you want to make your motion?
Sure, thank you. So the city of West Palm Beach has joined Living Hungry to assist with food distribution events through grant programs established by the commission. Living Hungry has been distributing food to various organizations throughout the city of West Palm Beach on the city's golf course. I would like to make a motion to declare use of the city employees and equipment, including a forklift and driver, needed to facilitate these food distributions within the city of West Palm Beach for a public purpose.
Got it.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Move for
Hearing
discussion.
none, Madam Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Mayor, you move for
Commissioner
discussion.
Cho has a question.
There was a
Sorry?
discussion.
Move for discussion.
Okay, I didn't see a question. Okay, Commissioner Shove. Madam
Thank you,
President.
Mayor. I just want to clarify on Commissioner Fox's motion that we're talking about the use, this specific use for these specific events. So any further use of city-owned equipment, et cetera, would come on a case-by-case basis.
So I just, as an FYI for more information, this event will be July 8th through August 26th. It will be every Wednesday for about 4 hours. We will be using a forklift and a driver. And that is the only thing I'm specifically asking for in this motion. It's just, it's hot and you know, the boxes are heavy and we were trying to do it originally without the forklift and it just takes a lot more people. So that's all I'm specifically asking for.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Commissioner Nearing,
Yes.
Commissioner Lambert,
Yay.
Commissioner Show,
Yay.
Commissioner Paduzzi,
Yay.
Commissioner Fox,
Yay.
motion passes unanimously.
Okay, very good. Okay, public comment, back to public comment.
Just checking to see if we've got audio there, Mayor.
Okay,
Sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We got you, Brian. So first public comment is Professor Tinker.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Professor Rudolph Tinker. I'm a criminologist and a political scientist. So I spent more than about 15 plus years in all assets of law enforcement and how different government and city structures work. But as Washington, D.C. grapple with police violence throughout the country as they decide to make decisions on how they will deal with policing in this country going forward. And actually they use the word policing is bad because really the origins of law enforcement is peacekeepers. And when we say policing, it's like you're policing people. And that's what many law enforcement officers do today. They police. And we really don't want policing. We want them being peace officers, community service officers, what we really need. But I'm here today on something even more sentimental. As you can see, what's in my hand now, this is it's called a direct impact part number 6320. That's a rubber bullet that's used by the city of West Palm Beach, by the city of West Palm Beach Police Department. Expiration date on this is 2014. By the manufacturer, which the name is Safariland, says after 5 years, this must be disposed of because they don't know how this will react after 5 years. This was deployed by the West Palm Beach Police Department on peaceful protesters. I think it was around May 31st. I might be wrong, 1st of June, May 31st? May 31st. And actually, according to the Environmental Agency of the United States, anything after has been expired with chemical agents must be properly disposed of. Now, according to the police department, it was disposed on peaceful protesters. When we look at policing in general, I mean, and West Palm Beach has a history of issues within their police department. And this is no joke. I mean, we have the sheriff, Rick Bradshaw came from West Palm Beach, was sued by 4 police officers for racism. Police agencies throughout this country has systemic issues. And if we fail to recognize that in West Palm Beach, we have a problem. As we see what's going on throughout this country in police issues, this is a time here right in West Palm Beach that we can take the opportunity to make the change. Now, Mr. Mayor, Keith James, you're considered to be a strong mayor. A strong mayor is someone you have total executive authority over the city. You can fire and hire a chief of police. You can also make recommendations, appoint people to the board. What we're looking for today, or my recommendation for the city, would be to create community review boards that's separate from the police department, that can sit on the hiring panel, firing panel, and disciplinary panel of law enforcement officers in your city. More important also, we need to ensure that we have the bulk of law enforcement officers living within the city.
Okay, next comment.
Come on up, come on up.
Next comment is Jessica Millwood.
Jason, this is Jessica Pitcher.
There's two Jessica. She's in there.
That's fine, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Jessica Pitcher. I'm a resident of Palm Beach County. I am here representing the reformers movement, and the time is now West Palm Beach. I want to first thank Commissioner Nearing for always being a strong, helpful, and fair voice in the community. And thank you, West Palm Beach Police Department, for the respect and help that you showed at Woodmeyer Pierre's peaceful protests. With that being said, Devin J. was 17 years old, parked in front of his house when he was murdered by West Palm Beach Police in 2012. The officer who shot him, Josh Cushell, had 50+ complaints against him. Dave Ehrenberg, our Attorney General, ruled this shooting justified after a brief investigation, despite all witnesses, including neighbors' accounts, contradicting the officers, even Cushell contradicted himself in sworn testimony. We have found proof of his employment as recently as 2019. More than 50 complaints have been lodged against him before that night, mostly related to rudeness and disrespect, but there were also allegations of reckless driving and 4 for excessive use of force. In one, Cushell allegedly slapped a woman and threw her to the ground. Twice he was accused of drawing his gun unnecessarily, and once he tasered a suspect who was already handcuffed. None of these complaints were sustained by any investigators. In August 2011, a girlfriend filed an informal complaint saying she was concerned about behavior-related drugs Cushell was taking. PBSO concluded her concerns about medications were addressed at our level, and we did not go any further. This all led up to the instance of Devin dying. When Cushell pulled up behind Devin's car, the dashcam video recorded Devin opening his door halfway. Cushell immediately drew his pistol and approached, shouting a command to shut the door. Devin did as he was told. Within 16 seconds, Cushell fired 3 rounds into Devin, killing him. After that, within the next 2 minutes, he fired 2 more rounds into him after he was already dead. With that being said, I agree with Professor Tinker in saying that we need a community review board so that internal investigations are not just done internally by their own coworkers. We need a review board that is also there reviewing every single count of misconduct that a police officer does, so that this never happens again, so that George Floyd's case never happens again, so that Elijah McCain never happens again, and Breonna Taylor never happens again. Thank you.
Next comment will be from Mr. Pierre.
Is there a microphone here, or they're just hearing me?
They hear you.
All right, whenever you guys are ready.
Whenever you start talking, you're good.
Hello, my name is Woodmeyer Pierre. I'm 19 years old. I'm a recent resident of West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm here representing as the founder of the Reformers Movement and standing with the Time Is Now of West Palm Beach. Starting off, thank you to Commissioner Nearing for always stepping up and leading the way, and for your commitment and passion to changing the community for better in West Palm Beach. The Reformers Movement has organized 7 peaceful protests around Palm Beach County, 3 of which were in West Palm Beach. The West Palm Beach Police Department has been very helpful and have made it their mission to keep us safe during our protests. Thank you to Deputy Chief Morris and Assistant Deputy Chief Tamika West, and all police officers who are out here upholding the Constitution and keeping their oath to serve and protect. But many of my fellow protesters and organizers, unfortunately, were not so lucky to have the encounter that I have had with the West Palm Beach Police Department, and I just don't understand. But even though I'm grateful that we're able to work together and that no one was hurt, and that we were not met with militarized force by West Palm Beach Police Department, my fellow protesters and organizers want answers. And those who are traumatized by the events that occurred on June 31st deserve answers and actions from the city of West Palm Beach and the police department. I'm not going to sit here and bash the police department, because not only have they shown gratitude and professionalism, but they have also led by example. But as Professor Tinker was saying, I feel like we do need a community review board in the city of West Palm Beach to review police misconduct, because God forbid something like Indianapolis happens in West Palm Beach or in Palm Beach County, period. When it all comes down to it, things will get crazier than it has been. So I've been trying to hold my end of working with working with the respectables to try to keep everything peaceful. But if something like that happens here, I don't think we'll be able to do that just on our own. So I'm asking you, Mayor Keith James, and all commissioners here today to please consider a community review board, and to please give these people the answers, give our protesters the answers, and take accountability. We all have to take accountability. It's a two-way street, but we need accountability for what happened on June 31st, which I can't very much speak on because I was not there, so I don't want to make any assumptions, but many people that are going to be speaking were there on June 31st. Thank you.
Public comment will be from Jessica Millwood.
Can they just hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, I don't know when my time starts, so I'll just get to it. Police brutality exists. This is a fact. Racism exists, and this is another one. The thing about racism and police brutality is that these two have been in a mutually exclusive relationship for quite some time. They have their ups and downs alongside one another, but they have been working things out under the counseling of a crooked system. Don't believe me? When an entitled Caucasian woman or man calls for the intervention of law enforcement on a person of color, that colored individual's fatal mistake could be the wrong place, wrong time, or wrong skin. George Floyd. When walking home from the store with snacks can get you killed by a white man who was instructed not to pursue, Trayvon Martin. When police are called on bird watchers, such as Christian Cooper, but consequences don't seem fit, antagonizing thugs like Amy Cooper, ball victim. Botham Jean, Breonna Taylor, Tatiana Jefferson, Corey Jones in our county. When the police get it wrong, we label the brutality as such, but that is just a portion of the brutal hunt. When playing with a toy designed to be played with on a playground designed to be played in can have you dead at 12, Tamir Rice. When evidence points to the exoneration of 5 Black adolescents, but they have been convicted anyway, the Central Park 5. When you mysteriously end up dead in custody, Sandra Bland or Elijah McClain. These are just broad and national examples about attacks that happen far away from us, many of us. But one that hits close to home for me is the death of Cory Simpson. Some of you may know his case, but I don't expect you to. This was the longest pending case to date in Broward County that involved the police fatal shooting. How much time? April 29th, thank you. 2011, Cory died. On April 24th, on the anniversary of his death, 4 years later, the officers involved were acquitted. But on April 24th, it hadn't been presented to a court just yet. But the 29th of 2015, they were acquitted. These are all facts. And when you research the case, you will see the officers report being approached and threatened by a knife-wielding man. But if that were true, only gunshots would have connected to his frontal plane. Witnesses reported hearing more than 15 gunshots, but police will not say how many shots were fired, nor will they say how many connected. I will. Cory Simpson was my cousin, and he died when I was 16 years old. I'm 25 now, and his mother is a Broward Sheriff's officer. I was at the open casket funeral when the pastor stated 29 shots were fired at Cory and 27 connected in his back. I know this was in Broward, but all of these incidents didn't take place in a particular county until the day they did. If that went over your head, then you have more work to do. Yeah. God bless.
The next public comment, I apologize for the pronunciation, Angela Kopoulos.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Evangelia Angelakopoulos, and I reside in Palm Beach Gardens, but I spend much more of my time in the beautiful city of West Palm Beach than I do at home. Special thanks to Commissioner Cory Nearing for his passionate and undying support and always leading by example. Since the brutal lynching of George Floyd, I have participated in several community organized events, all peaceful displays of loving your neighbor as your brother in support of the Black community. These have brought me all over Palm Beach County, from Miami, Wellington, Palm Beach Gardens, Jupiter, West Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, and countless others. In none of these cities besides West Palm Beach was I met with any situation that was life-threatening. On June 2nd, 2020, 3 of my friends and I met in front of West Palm Beach City Hall on the sidewalk. We were standing silently, no chants, just holding signs. Immediately upon our arrival, both streets were shut down and officers were positioned on either side of us with their rifles exposed. We decided to start walking to actually be seen and also for fear of our lives. We turned the corner and were met with 2 military-grade armored tactical units parked alongside the building with at least 24 officers surrounding in full tactical gear, including assault rifles. Mind you, there were 3 of us with signs. We weren't even chanting. Being a victim of PTSD from surviving 2 active shooter situations, I am living, breathing proof that these tactics and show of force are unnecessary and dangerous to the mental health and overall well-being of peaceful civilians and members of the community. You need to review your city's policies and de-escalation. Review when it's necessary to flaunt unnecessary force in peaceful situations. I deserve to feel safe in your city. Everyone deserves to feel safe in your city. The time is now. These types of situations cause irreversible trauma to innocent citizens. There must be a better way to protect and serve your community. Delray Beach and Riviera Beach are beautiful displays of community policing excellence. In those cities, the entire community, including the officers and fire department, came out in overwhelming support of the Black community, unlike here in West Palm Beach. Why is that? Repeatedly, I've seen displays of unnecessary force, including but not limited to military-grade tactical units, fingers on the trigger guard. Why? The 4 basic rules of firearm safety are all firearms are to be considered always loaded. Never let the barrel cover anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger and trigger guard until your sights are on the target, and identify your target and its surroundings. Your officers had their rifles out, their finger on the trigger guard. That's unsafe, and I know that from my own handling of firearms and experience. So the fact that I am faced with, coming into your city and feeling my life being threatened when I'm here the majority of the time, whether it's meeting people at a coffee shop, going to subculture, hanging out, or going out at night. I bring hundreds of my people, my friends, my family to the city, and I don't feel that it's safe. So I urge you, Mayor, to take responsibility and accountability and make the changes that are necessary for your people to feel safe in the community. Is that my time?
Next comment will be from Ashley Johnson.
Hi, good evening. I just first would like to mention that Professor Tinker did not get his full 3 minutes. He was shorted by 30 seconds. So if he could get the additional 30 seconds, that would be much appreciated. I also want to thank Mayor James for taking a harder stance on corruption and other goings on and looking into the police department. But I do believe it does take a committee, an independent committee at that, in order to get real transparency, true transparency. Because I decided just in the past day or 2, just to Google simply Rick Bradshaw, who's been an incumbent, and you yourself knows that sometimes incumbents have to go because you were replaced an incumbent. And he's been around since 2004, and the things I could find date back to 1985, and he's an incumbent sheriff. You have the power to get rid of somebody who's been committing crimes documented by the Palm Beach Post at that, not documented by unsavory sources, actual posted media, actual Miami Herald, Palm Beach Post. And I have several incidents, and that's just on the first 2 or 3 Google pages. So why is this man still in power? And furthermore, I want to know what kind of training they're having. They say that they're changing the training, but is it warrior style training? Because warrior style training is the very style of training that got George Floyd killed. And I do agree with the de-escalation of the police training, but I want more transparency on that training, because when I went to the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office to look on how they do their training, it's all sidestepping. It's no real facts. I don't get any kind of factual about what they're doing. And on the Forest Hill Boulevard March, at least half of them did not have body cams. And the ones that did, they hide their names and they hid their body cams in addition to that. And I'm going to take my extra time just to take a moment of silence for all our fallen brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Next comment will be from Alex Melagon.
My name is Alex Melagon. I'm also a resident of West Palm Beach, and I would like to continue that moment of silence for our fallen brothers and sisters and siblings. The time is now.
You know, I think it was quite unfortunate for me that I did not get the proper time, ma'am, when you started the clock. So we were hoping that people can defer some of the time back to me to speak, because you didn't set the time correctly. I know you're shaking your head, but you didn't do it correctly. this is a time to be flexible and say, listen, I made a mistake, and we're the city of West Palm Beach, and I'm going to give you that time that you deserve. So this is an opportunity for you to be the bigger person, ma'am. Hazel Carson.
Mr. Mayor, that's your call. What happened was he was given the 3 minutes. However, he stopped talking before the timer went off. So he didn't take his full 3 minutes. It wasn't me taking.
Okay, all right. Next speaker, please. Next speaker. Next speaker.
Next speaker would be Stephanie Osofsky.
Hi, everyone. Deepest thanks to Commissioner Nearing for being here again today. Thank you so much. Do you know how many hours of training a barber goes through to legally give a haircut? 1,200. To paint someone's fingernails in this state or to shape a beard requires 1,200 hours of training before you can trim a hangnail on the upside of the law. In the state of Florida, interior designers must be registered before they are allowed to work in a commercial space. In order to obtain that kind of licensing, you must have a bachelor's degree and complete 3,520 hours of interior design work. In fact, as most Americans are probably even more familiar in the crippling aftermath of a pandemic, most jobs require that applicants hold a bachelor's degree and have years of relative experience in their field. Officers of the law are asked to be no further educated than high school or to have taken a GED at 18 years old, and to complete an average of 800 hours of training within the context of the academy. From there, they are required to complete 40 training hours every 4 years. You heard right, just 10 hours a year. Now let's imagine a world where policing and interior design were apples to apples as far as training for licensing practice is concerned. If policing, protecting and serving with the power to deploy tactics of war in response to the people, let alone the daily responsibility of carrying a loaded weapon, required the same amount of training as decorating a coffee shop, at the same annual rate that they were currently required to do their job, it would take members of the police force 352 years to earn their badge. Corey Jones was safer from a blade carving a fade into his head than he was in the company of those who claim to commit their lives to protect and serve. And it's just too comfortable for white folks to admit our swerve. I'm going to call upon the beating hearts in your chest now. If you are so brave, please place a hand there, all of you. There's a practice in Buddhist teaching called Tonglen. I promise all of your religious beliefs have space for this. In this practice, we are called to compassion by taking on suffering. With each in-breath, we breathe in empathic resonance with the suffering plaguing other beings. We make the conscious choice to encounter that feeling ourselves and hold space for all the others who know the nature of suffering. Other human beings with hearts just like this one, with children just like yours, with dreams of futures and many, many, many more heartbeats and in-breaths. With each out-breath, we hold the reality of the relief of that suffering. In again towards the suffering, out again towards its relief. From this compassionate space, I want to know if you think this city is as just as your mayor says. From this heart, I want to know if you can stomach the truth that whatever your children will grow up to be, they will likely require more training than the police. Hear our plea, that acts of humanity are responded to compassionately, which is not for 1 second exclude accountability. We must reconfigure this reality, reform these tragedies, make it easier to hold scissors than to join the academy. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker will be Jordan Embry.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jordan Embry. I live in West Palm Beach, Florida. I come here tonight because I live in the city, but I feel the pain of the events that are happening around the world in my bones. I shake from how much it hurts. I've been moved to tears for this, and I really hope that each and every one of you have as well. It's time to make changes locally that can make a ripple effect around this country. Those changes resemble a community review board for transparency and for police reform. I'm standing with The Time Is Now in West Palm Beach. I am here holding space for lives like Elijah McClain, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. I'm going to use the rest of my time to donate some silence to those lives, and I invite you to do the same with me. I'd like to also acknowledge that I see so many of you looking down at phones right now. And that relays such a loud message. Please hear our pleas, listen, and show that you care. Please show that respect. Show the respect for the lives that I just named. Show that they make a difference in your world like they do ours.
Next speaker will be Nick Murray.
Hi there. I want to thank all of you for your time. My name is Nick. I live here in the city. I've been a citizen here for a few years now. I appreciate the strict attention to the time constraint. I wish that attention to detail had been present in the City Hall that you conducted via Zoom earlier in the month, Mayor Keith James. You guys took 20 minutes introducing yourselves, although your CVs could all be found online. My tone is going to oscillate between gentle and furious, honestly, because all of us here, you guys and everyone present here, are all the undersigned of a social contract. We're not your subjects, we are collaborators with you. So we really shouldn't have to come here and make overtures to you guys to do your jobs. We are here, I think, trying to work in tandem with you. The things that I saw, the things that I heard during that town hall meeting, the things that I've heard from other people who have attended protests, the people who attended protests on May 31st, so on and so forth. The behavior of our leadership smacks of a lack of political will to do what needs to be done. We canonize an industrialist, Henry Morrison Flagler, for building a city where we stand right now, for building a city on the backs of slave labor. July 4th is coming up. We're celebrating our emancipation the emancipation of the original colonies from British rule. It was 89 years later that the slaves were formally freed. The incarceration and murder of people who look like me, and who look like some of the people sitting on this panel right now, is still incentivized. People still profit off of it. What are we doing to address the history that we choose to tell, and the history that we choose to reaffirm in this city? How are we upholding this idyllic illusion that we all are forced to inhabit against our will? We really need to see better from you guys. We really need to see more. We shouldn't have to lean on you to get you to care. We really shouldn't have to incentivize your empathy. I support my colleagues, the people who have come before me and the people who are going to be coming after, in their desire for a police oversight board. And yeah, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Guido Weiss.
Good to go. Good evening. My name is Guido Weiss. I'm a Democratic candidate for Congress here in Palm Beach County. I want to again thank Commissioner Nearing for his continued support. I've seen him at a number of events. And I also echo my colleagues and friends' comments requesting a citizens oversight panel or committee. But I also want to mention another thing. Last night, this is a little bit off topic. Last night I had a Zoom town hall with our Palm Beach County's leadership of the deaf and hard of hearing community. And the thing that they mentioned over and over and over again is that meetings just like this, they cannot understand what's going on. I know this is a different subject than what we've been discussing, and closed captions aren't enough. We've got people that speak Creole as their first language and Spanish as their first language who can't necessarily understand what's going on at these meetings. But I'm going to a different point. Right here, just a couple miles away, is the mass grave, the mass black grave of the 1928 hurricane, where 674 people, black people, were put into a grave while white people had proper burials. And there's a mass grave, and barely anybody knows about this subject. So I'm asking you as a leadership in West Palm Beach to start on a public education campaign so we can teach more people in Palm Beach County and in West Palm Beach about the history that we come from and the issues the Black communities had to deal with here for a long time that they're in no way recent. And we're here as a group trying to work to solve, to make the situation better. So frequently issues like this and the well-being of our community are drowned out by projects that campaign money steers through pay-to-pay politics. Now, what are pay-to-pay politics? Pay-to-pay politics is when a company, usually a developer, contributes to the campaign, whether it's a commissioner or mayor, and frequently helps influence the decision-making process at zoning and other things. And many times you have a lot of oversight of zoning in certain projects, and many times these contribute to gentrification within our cities that exacerbates some of the issues that we're dealing with, impoverished certain communities. And we have a long history of this. Here in West Palm Beach, I believe it was 2006 or 2007, there was a Florida State grand jury, which basically said the city under the mayorship of Lois Frankel was a pay-to-play city. That's the same administration that kicked out homeless people from downtown West Palm Beach. So we need to start leading with compassion. So I encourage you to make policies based off of the people that you're hearing today. Get that citizens oversight review board in place. And I encourage everybody listening to follow money and see how it influences this entire situation that we're dealing with. Thank you for being here.
Next comment will be from Lauren Schaller.
May I start? Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm 32 years old and I live here in West Palm Beach. Thank you for your time. I am here because I stand with my community. I love all of my brothers and sisters in West Palm Beach. I stand by the Black Lives Matter movement, and because I love this city and I want to see change. I see a system that is broken, that is oppressive, and causes pain, trauma, and right here in West Palm Beach, causes major distrust between our local city officials and the police department on one side, and members of our community on the other, very specifically, peaceful protesters and members of the community who are Black, Indigenous, and of color. I am here because I stand by every other speaker that has coming now and has been up here already. I demand transparency and reform within the police department. I stand by the idea of a civilian review board to help make changes within the police department because more needs to happen beyond the 8 that can't wait. We in this city have witnessed acts of war and aggression against peaceful protesters. And there is no denying that. And that is a huge issue. And what we feel here in the community is that we have leaders who are not willing to meet with us and stand with us and talk to us so that our city can be an example of what change can look like for the whole country. And Commissioner Nearing, I would like to thank you for meeting with us and speaking with us and guiding us in this process. And I would like to invite everybody else here to do the same. We are in a time where it is being mirrored to us, all of the systems in our country to which we have been complacent and contribute. These systems claim to be rooted in fairness and equality and justice for everybody, but in reality, they are violent towards and disempower people of color. And as leaders, look at yourselves. A good leader not just leads, but is not afraid to admit when systems are broken, is not afraid to admit if they've done something wrong in the past, not afraid to make mistakes, and will listen to the people who are oppressed, because those are the people that have these solutions for you. If I was the mayor, and if I had all of these brilliant minds in this room, in this building with me, that have ideas, that have passion, that have the drive, I would be inviting them into my company every day and hearing their ideas and incorporating them into the decisions I make. So I'm here to plead with you to look at yourselves as leaders and what can you do better for your people. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Dana Torres.
Good evening. So I'm Dana Torres. I reside in West Palm Beach, and I'm kindly asking to waive my 3 minutes in order to afford him to the professor. I feel that he has an amazing message that needs to be heard, and I'm asking you, Mayor Keith James, to just honor that and honor his voice and allow him to speak. I don't understand why you're shaking your head. It's not going to change the proceedings. It's not going to take up time. He just needs to be heard.
We don't allocate time to other speakers. So speaker 3 minutes, and we'll call the next one. Or 2 minutes and 27 seconds left.
All right. Well, I mean, it's really disappointing that we're all here. We've all been waiting over 2 hours to speak. I myself have lots of messages, but I think it's more important to hear from people like the professor that has actually studied this, that actually has a great message to convey. And instead of just honoring that, you're just shaking your head and refusing to work with us. We're here because we want to work with you. We want to figure out how to find solutions and how to just improve what's going on. And things aren't looking that great for you and for a lot of other people sitting in this council. So if you guys want us to continue to vote for you, if you guys want us to support you and to be able to keep you on the council, you guys also need to give a little bit. You guys also need to be able to honor what we want, create that space for us to be able to speak. Now, me, myself, I've gone to the protests. I've also encountered a lot of violence from your police officers. I mean, when we were on the beach, when we went over to Palm Beach Island, and it was a group of 20 of us, and we were met with about 50 to 100 cops in full riot gear. Do you know how scary that is for us to just be met with such force when we want to just ask for equality, ask for justice? Is this how you want to run your city? I guess I'm going to use the rest of my time to stay silent and just look at you to see if there's anything that's going to move you to make changes, to make this neighborhood safer for everybody, not just for the people that are living on the south side of Okeechobee, but also the people living on the north side, which have also been forgotten by you guys. It's constantly over-policed, offering no type of resources. It's very frustrating. It really is frustrating. So I guess the rest of this time, we're just gonna sit here and look at each other.
time, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, the time did not go off.
Our next speaker will be Rodney Mayo.
Hello. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Rodney Mayo. Just have a few comments. I'm here just to support these young folks who have been amazing leaders in this long overdue change. These young leaders have done everything right by meeting with the police and sheriff's officials in advance and trying to work with them to peacefully protest. But their protests and demands for change have been met with ridiculous delay tactics, resulting in them having to stand for 12 hours and finally being allowed to march 1 block. They have been rewarded for their leadership with tear gas and rubber bullets, with military-style tanks rolling up to show force to intimidate and dominate. Translation, this city does not care about you or your issues. All city actions condoned with righteous indignation by our mayor and city officials. The number of lies that were told at that news conference the following Sunday night would make any rational person distrust the police and our city officials. Imagine the lifelong scars of the 16-year-old African-American kid from 7th and Tamarind that was shot with rubber bullets and tear gas, only to have it covered up and lied about the next day. Is this not the very systemic problem this whole fight for change is about? These are our future leaders. They are our future. And you have shut them down at every turn and refused any meaningful dialogue. You should be ashamed. I can only hope that our future commissioners will be comprised of these young leaders other than the status quo. I want to thank Commissioner Nearing for standing up and fighting the right fight. He is following his moral compass. He has been to all of the gatherings and peaceful protest. He has taken the time to speak with all the young leaders and listen to them. I believe he will be proven to be on the right side of history and will be overwhelmingly supported by his courage and conviction. They do not want any more politicians. They want leaders, and you so far proven to be politicians. Stand up for these young leaders. You should all give them a standing ovation rather than shutting the door in their face. You have an opportunity to fix this and let these leaders be a part of the change that is inevitably coming, no matter how much you fight against it. The door has always been open to you. I would strongly suggest you take advantage of the short window of time, walk through their door, reach out and start this meaningful dialogue. They want your attention. Are you paying attention? Do they deserve your attention? They don't want excuses. They want you to listen and act. The time to speak out is not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next election cycle. The time is now. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker will be Jake Ryan.
Hello. I don't really have much to say. I came with this group of people that all spoke before me, and pretty scared right now. I don't like speaking on camera, but I would just like to basically say that I don't have much to say, but what they're saying should be heard. You know, police reform is something that I could see being valuable to all of us. You know, I'm just gonna take the time to be quiet, and hopefully you guys think just like me. You want to play some? Yeah. Oh wait, hold on one second. One more second. You guys are really rude for muting the professor and all the other speakers. I really didn't like that. Made me really uncomfortable. Yeah, this is my first time being involved in the political process my entire life. I'm one of these like young people. I'm not at all a leader. Yeah.
You want to play a song? We might as well play a song. You guys should listen.
The next speaker will be Michael Contrelli.
Hello, did my time start? So my name is Michael. I'm here to throw my support for defunding the police, Black Lives Matter, and the reformers movement. To start, in order for real police change to occur, we have to change the way we actually think about police and identify their actual roles in our society. Our whole lives, we've been told that police are here to protect and serve, but in reality, this is just propaganda. During every area of policing in this country, police have been used as a tool to protect and serve the interests of the ruling class. The first police in the South were slave catchers, and the first police in the North were used to oppress workers trying to fight for their rights. Police have always been used as a force of oppression in this country. The Supreme Court has ruled on at least 2 separate occasions that police have no obligation to keep us safe. Law enforcement's purpose is just that, to enforce laws and not to protect the people. Only around 4% of police work is dealing with violent crime, and the rest is dealing with unimportant minor offenses. We've been told our whole life that the police spend the whole day fighting bad guys and keeping us safe, and that narrative has been used to justify the ridiculous amount of funding that they get. So, do cops actually keep us safe? Unfortunately, there have been 0 studies that show that increasing police presence makes communities safer. There's not a single person in my life who feels safe when a cop drives by. They make us scared, not safe. However, there have been multiple studies showing that increasing the resources in a community does lower crime. You have to understand that no one really wants to commit crimes. No one wants to steal or sell drugs or anything, but people in low-income communities are often forced to do this just to survive. They should not be demonized for that. A community rich in public resources such as healthcare and a good education system will thrive a lot more than one overran by aggressive cops. Now, police are just a man with a gun, and the majority of situations they are called for cannot be solved by a man with a gun. Police are called for mental health issues when they have no training for it. I know this because I have training for this in my background in psychology and sociology. Over 1/4 of police shootings are from mental illness calls. This is absurd. The police have no training or understanding of what to do in these situations. Defunding the police means a therapist would be called to these situations and not a man with a gun. Defunding the police means that someone would have called a tow truck instead of the police at Wendy's, and Rayshard Brooks would still be alive with his family. Police are also called for drug issues when they shouldn't be. The idea that people don't have a right to do what they want with their own body is disgusting. What kind of freedom is that in this country? The drug war has a long racist history in this country and has been used as a weaponized tool to oppress people of color since its inception. Even though white people and people of color use drugs at around roughly the same rate, people of color are arrested 6 more times for drug charges. In 2015, America held around 1/4 of the world's prison population, even though we only make up 4.4% of the world's population, and we have the audacity to call ourselves the land of the free. Yes, freedom for only the wealthy and privileged. It is disgusting to me. Now, I would like to echo my previous compatriots here and say that we need a community review board as well, and we need to start defunding the police and reallocating those resources into the community. I would recommend taking to start $100 million from the police budget in your city and investing those into the communities, and to start with a community review board as well. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker will be Laura Sanchez.
Is my time begin as soon as I've come up here? I'm going to start my clock with you. Hi, my name is David Ray, and I'm a resident of West Palm Beach. Before I begin, I'd like to just simply state that it's my personal philosophy that you and I and everybody on this panel are the same. Literally, I am you and you are me. What is being reflected back to me from myself is atrocious. So I'm for police reform. I want a community board elected by the community to oversee all this stuff. I'm with all of that. That's a second subject. I'm new to politics. So first and foremost, again, Cory Simpson, thank you so much, Commissioner, for being with us. I know that you haven't had any private conversation with us, but your presence has been felt. You being there alone has been something that's made us feel safer and heard and recognized, and we matter. I openly invite every single person on this Zoom call to meet with me, to meet with the leaders in this community. Let's build together. Now, outside of that on a second, body language matters. Mr. James, your body language says I don't matter, you're relaxed. Everybody else on your panel is looking at you. You, my friend, are a bully. I say that with love because I believe you can change, but you are a bully. Earlier, you moved a motion. You can suck your teeth and do all of that. You moved a motion without redoing the agenda. That's wrong. It's a dictatorship. You called out someone who disagreed with you as if that was wrong. I personally see that the rest of the commissioners on here have proper body stance that says they're listening, they're tied in, they're plugged in. You're not. I know that. Mr. James, I would love to have a conversation with you and meet with you and build, but I don't think you want to. I've never seen you at any of these events. I haven't heard you openly support anybody. I've heard lies come out of your mouth. Mr. James, everything I've seen from you is so disappointing. I want to believe a brother in office is going to benefit me. You're not benefiting anybody. And I think you have the government held hostage. The commissioners seem fearful. If they're not, you can, again, let's have an open conversation one day, but the commissioners seem fearful of you. Your police force seems fearful of you. And I believe the men and women that you put on the streets to enact your will do not always stand by that, but they do it because of their duty. You need to release some of those reins. We need to be done with this strong mayor stuff, because if you cared, you'd be out with us, because we're openly inviting you to. We love our community. But let me let you know something. The reformers movement is made of 95, and I don't represent them, I'm speaking for, listen, 95% of them are teenagers of voting age, and they live in West Palm Beach. The polls will be open. I am making it my personal call to get every single young person I can get involved in politics, because most of us don't know it goes on like this, and this is a waste of time. We are not talking about what matters right now. So let's have a conversation. I would love to speak to every single one of you, and I appreciate you who are showing heart. Ms. Fox, I feel you. Commissioner Fox, I see you. I appreciate you. I've heard you're new to this game. I'm new to this game too. But I'm going to reach out to my mentors, my elders, and my ancestors and figure out what's good for me and what's good for the best of us. But we've got to make a change, and the time is now. I promise you, I'm coming. I love you.
The next speaker should now be Laura Sanchez.
Good afternoon, Council. I got a little nervous here, but I think I can get a point to you guys. I don't understand why the cities that don't need fits, or not even the cities, the streets that don't need fits are getting destroyed and rebuilt, like Clematis, like City Place. Why do we have so many communities around here, you know, like Contaminant, east of Palm Beach Lakes? They need to be repaired. Where is their money going? We are paying taxes. We pay a lot of taxes a year. And I don't understand why streets like Clematis are getting fixed when they didn't even need to be fixed. What about the schools that need funding? Why is that money being used to militarize the police more instead of using that money to help the people that need help? You're empowered. And it actually makes me really sad to see how you guys acted in the video call. We all are watching you. And you like basically mock us. You're supposed to be leaders to protect us and be there for us, not treat us like anything. Look at you. You're so rude. What is your name, lady? Hazel. You're such a rude lady. I swear, like, I don't know how nobody told you, but you are so rude. Would you like if someone did that to you? I'm sure you wouldn't. And you are a black lady. Why are you not standing with us? You should be standing with us. Instead of putting a phone on the freaking camera, excuse my language, to literally basically dismiss what we're saying. Is that important to you? What if you were the person growing up in a poor neighborhood where there is crime, where there is all the things that can possibly happen, and it's even more prone to happen when those neighborhoods are not getting the help they need. You have the neighborhoods looking like crap. So why don't you fix those? Why don't you use the money on those? Why don't you use the money to fund the schools that need funding? Maybe teach the kids to learn to love each other, like ethics and values. You know, something so simple. I don't get why you guys sit there in power and you dismiss what the people want. And look at you, you continue to be rude. It's mind blowing. How are you in power? Who elected you? Like, I'm sorry, but I don't understand. As far as I'm concerned, the people in power should be listening to us. Just because you're in power doesn't mean you can just take what we said and throw it in the garbage. Because we're getting tired, and we're gonna see change, I promise you. And we're not gonna be violent, we don't need to riot, we don't need to do none of that. But I promise you, just keep your eyes open, because you guys are gonna see that the power of the people is greater than the people in power. And that's all I gotta say.
The next speaker will be Melinda Miller.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melinda. I'm born and raised in West Palm Beach. So all I have to say is at the moment, I would like to surrender my speaking time to somebody who I believe has something more important to say.
You keep shaking your head, and as the last guy said, you know, as a man of color that looks similar to us, it's very sad.
He's already spoken.
It's very sad that you do this. It's sad that your clerk did
There's no allocation of time. Can you cut off his mic, please? Call, Mr. Moderator, call the next person. Who's the next speaker?
The next speaker would be Jenny Big Crow.
Keep standing there.
Just keep saying that for the 3 minutes.
Is this Ms. Crow's time?
She's not in front of the podium. I still have the mic muted right now.
Did you call her?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Is Jenny Big Crow?
Disgusting. All right, where's my timer? Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Jenny Vickrow. I am a lot of things. I take great pride in who I am as an Indigenous woman in the United States of America. I was born and raised on a Native American reservation in South Dakota. I am currently residing in Wellington. I have been a part of this Palm Beach County for the last 12 years. I'm a single mom of 3 teenage Black boys, 17, 15, 13. And I also help lead these protests out here with these young adults. I take pride in being a mentor to many people, specifically my children though, because I am raising men to be men in society that are warriors, men who know how to be friends and kind, but also lead, men who are gentle, caring, loving. I want to read you a passage that I have. A true friend lifts you up. A true friend lifts you up at the higher levels of achievement. They stand behind you. A true friend will support you. A true friend stands beside you. A true friend will strengthen you. They stand before you. A true friend will always stimulate us. Let us think about each other and help each other to show love and to do good deeds. Those of you that are Christian are very familiar with that passage. I am here because these guys are my friend. I didn't know them from Adam from Eve, to be honest, but I showed up at a protest as a young mom because I'm an Indigenous warrior. And as a young girl, my mommy taught me that I have value and that I have a right to practice my First Amendment because my people have been doing it for years. If you go of Standing Rock 2016, I was there with my people, the Lakota people. Thank you. So I want to say to you guys, I brought up a fact of friendship. I value people. The people that are around me, all these young adults, I value them because they need to be heard, guys. And if you guys can't be friends with them and you can't get to know them, then how are you going to change things? I'm curious on how change will take place if you guys as individual peoples, as parents, I don't care that you're a commissioner and have those big titles and degrees. I care that you are a human being and will take the time to spread some of who you are into these lives of the people because they are our future generation. You guys want them to take care of you, but you can't even be friends with them. I'm sorry. I don't want to be having somebody that's my enemy take care of me. I really don't. So I want to ask you guys, everybody has been saying the same things. When will you be their friend? When? When will you join us on a protest? That's when we'll know.
The next speaker is Frankie Pierre-Paul.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Good afternoon, good evening. Buenos tardes. My name is Frankie Pierre-Paul, and I had the privilege of holding a peaceful protest on June 19th. I just want to start off by saying thank you to Chief Adderley, Chief Morris, Chief West, for coming together with us. And actually, some of their officers marched with us as well. I just want to shed light to that and say thank you. And also to Commissioner Nearing for his mentorship and for showing lots of love, even from afar. I also want to shed light on the fact that you guys are witnessing a huge change right now. And what I mean by that, you have a lot of youth that's here. Probably not people over the age of 30 that's out here speaking to you guys, took time out of their day to come out here and speak to you guys. The perspective of youth right now is that we're on our video games playing 2K20, we're playing Call of Duty. The perspective is that we're out playing basketball, or the perspective may be that we're doing something that's not, beneficial. But we're out here speaking to you guys, or trying to ask you guys to at least have a dialogue with us. And for me, it's more disheartening to have conversations with a youth when they're asking why. Why do I have to run away when I see the blue lights? Why can I trust the 911? Why? And the simple fact that we can't get real community leaders to just say, you know what? Off the record, let's just sit down and let's have a talk. That's all we're asking for. That's all they're asking for. That's all a lot of people is asking for. And I also speak up here as a father of two. My son is 1 year old, and every morning I wake up sweating because I don't know what tomorrow is going to hold for him. And I have to stand here. I have to be here and miss time with him so I can make sure that his future is a better future. So I can make sure that he can look back and say, my dad fought, my dad spoke up. And a lot of us, we're doing that right now. And we're not trying to be belligerent. We're not trying to scream. We're not trying to curse nobody out. But we're trying to say, once you clock out, once you guys go home today, right, you turn on that news or you turn on that channel and you look at CNN and you see all these riots and you come back to your hometown and you realize none of that's happening. You guys should be proud of that. That's all we're saying. You should be proud of that. Just listen to us, So again, I admire this generation. I admire where I stay because I'm not forced to carry a gun around, right? I'm not forced to carry a gun around and fear that I might go around the corner and somebody's gonna shoot at me. But maybe, right? Maybe. So all we're asking as community leaders, please guys, have a conversation. Answer your emails, answer your phone calls. I get it. It's stressful. I get it. I can feel the frustration. I can see it. I get it. But at the end of the day, you guys hold the key. You guys hold the key. And if you can't handle that pressure, please, you got people out here that's willing to do the job. I love y'all. Appreciate it.
The next speaker is Malin Abreu.
You start her time.
Is she gonna speak, Jason? Because I can't start the time till she announce herself.
I believe she's using this as her speaking time.
Well, she has to say something so I can start the timer.
Hello, my name's Malin.
That's why I succeed. I'm able to rely on you to do that and change the perspective and say, look, you're gonna keep getting it. Balance, you know? I thank my homeless neighbors for that, because boy, I thank them for that, man. Whenever I get it, we'll go out there. I dropped off 75 mistakes. We'll pick my grades.
Oh, it does to me because it don't make sense. To do this. Well, I mean, for the conversation, like how is ending right? How is ending like misconduct conversation? How is this not like something that you're equally as enraged? Oh yeah, the fact that we have to do this now. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So playing the politics, this is why you doesn't get involved.
It's an uncomfortable conversation, and the people that's having the conversation, they're like, what the heck? Like, we don't expect this.
A different era.
We all come and we apply pressure. They're like, wait.
But they do it so smart because they didn't know we were here. But the officer that's here with us is a community capital judge. Every interaction I've ever had with him is positive. And all he really cares about is that he is more directly affected by community because his grandmother was DMXing his bike and all that. He's from West Palm, born and raised. That's the important. That's somebody that we need to get. Something that strengthens because those are the type of officers that make it. We have to say, hell no. You got to protect them like we protect us. But what I'm saying is that they knew about it beforehand, that we were going to be here. They were anticipating this because they knew all the keys. They looked at it, watched it, because they strategically planned to have someone here. And they were doing it.
It's a little scary. I feel like they're waiting for something to happen. Yeah. Where they hear about looting or something, they're like, well, now we gotta apply the pressure. No, like.
The next speaker is Jose Zaragoza.
Like, that's the main thing.
Hello, my name is Jose Zaragoza. I'm a journalist with 16 years experience working in the South Florida region. Up until May 31st, 2020, I'd never been assaulted in my job working as a reporter and a journalist in South Florida. That assault came at the hands of a West Palm Beach Police Department officer. If you saw the video earlier today, I was the person who shot that video. I can count the steps the police officer took to approach me, standing on the sidewalk away from the melee, to spray me in the face with pepper spray. I think what's clear today, and one thing that I keep thinking in my mind, is a meeting I heard maybe a couple of weeks ago, where the mayor, the police chief, said that a problem does not exist in West Palm Beach.
I beg to differ. I think you've seen the problem speak up today. I would like to know what is being done to ensure that no one else is attacked in the same way and that our young protesters are safe when they're out on the streets protesting this moment in time. I have not heard anything from the city except excuses and lies. I have never had this experience as a journalist. I hope to never have it again, but I would like to know from everyone on the board, and if you would like to reach out to me personally to speak, let's do that. I don't want to demonize anyone. We're all human. The police officer acted in whatever capacity she thought was right. I think it's an opportunity to come together, to learn, to work and move forward, but I don't see that happening. I would like to see that happening, and I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Next speaker is Craig Smichael.
Name's Craig. It's hard being a public servant, right? At the scale that you guys have to work on. So I just want to be a voice of appreciation. Thanking you guys for staying some hours, listening to the voice of the community. And I wanted to I wanted to be an inspiration because I kind of know how it goes with this line of work day to day. You'll see nights like this where tons of people come to speak and think of it as something remarkable and move on and get bogged down in procedure and what it takes to actually make change and remember these words being said and then just actually move on and have nothing done. But I want you to just think of what it actually takes to actually make change, because the status quo is so very easy. It's so very easy to just keep talking and saying, oh, those people they spoke well, they made some good points, and then nothing actually happens. But in what we've seen across the country in this year, the officials in each of these cities had no idea that they're about to have cities on flames a few days later. They thought everything was okay in their precincts, in the policies they made in their commissions, and it wasn't enough. So right now you might say that what you see in your city is everything in harmony, police officers doing what they should, and you might not be, the pain that individuals are feeling might not be visible to you because they're not here. They hear about this stuff to come on and speak to you. But if you could actually take what you're hearing now as a hint of, maybe I can do a little bit more, then you might be avoiding something that you're not aware currently might be about to happen, right? The persons in Minneapolis, they didn't know about the sea change that was about to sweep over the nation. They didn't think that police officer, Derek Chauvin, that had so many complaints over the years about overuse of force, excessive force, that they never looked into, was one day gonna kneel on a man's neck and then light the world on fire. It's never enough. No matter how much you do, there's always a little bit more that you could do. So I definitely appreciate the intense attention that I've seen you commissioners focusing on us today. And when you leave, I want you to say, well, it was not just a nice discussion we had, but what can I do? What's one more bold idea that I can push that might flout the rules, flout the procedure, actually get something novel done? Thank you.
That was the final speaker, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Proceeding with the agenda. Item 11, resolution number 133-20, approving a smart loading zone pilot program with CORD to evaluate the management of the commercial flex zones / loading areas in Rosemary Square vicinity.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Commissioner. This item was presented to the City Commissioner and the Mayor last week on Wednesday, and I'm
Okay,
going to.
hold on, Wen.
Sorry.
Commissioner Laramie, do you want to make a comment about this or what?
Mayor, there was a number of very heartfelt comments made. I think, I don't want to speak for everybody else. I was definitely moved by many of them. I know that there's a lot of conversations that need to be had. I just wanted to express thanks to those who showed up. I know that it's not easy coming to speak at these meetings, and while there's a lot to work out, I just wanted to express thanks. So I don't know if they're all still there, but if we were in person, I think they would gather that, and I just wanted that to be said.
Thank you very much. Okay, Wen, I think we can proceed.
Okay, thank you. So as discussed, the Smart Loading Zone pilot program is a transportation demand management. This was a recommendation out of the 2018 downtown parking study, along with the city downtown mobility study, to future-proof ourselves, look at our curb space, and figure out how we can manage transportation network companies, drop-off and pickups, micromobility as we transition into the future. We are planning on proceeding to work with Cord for digital curb, which will provide the city with the ability, not only with the mobile app, but the dashboard to manage our curb inventory. There are some benefits, such as improving safety and mobility along our curbside, enhancing the loading experience, and really developing a policy to help us manage our flex zone moving forward in the future. And one point that was made by you, Mayor, last week was that the ability to pilot AVs, autonomous vehicles, in the future is to help us get to that, the future assets. The project location, as an overview, is in Rosemary Square. This is the zone that we intended to not only work with Cord, but with the related companies, as this area has been transformed recently. This is a one-year pilot program. The team, again, is not only West Palm Beach staff, but with the related companies and Cord. We are planning on doing some pre-planning, communications, and piloting, and reporting back to the City Commission within this 1 year. Ultimately, during that time, we have to come back to the City Commission for approvals, such as the program fee schedule, as we're discovering what those fees are. And after 1 year, with the intent of this pilot is that if we decide to proceed, we will be issuing an RFQ solicitation with a defined program and the expansion. So with that, I conclude my presentation, and this is Resolution 133-20.
Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 133-20.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Commissioner Nearing,
Yay.
Commissioner Schoaf,
Yay.
Commissioner Fox,
Yay.
Commissioner Paduzzi,
Yay.
Commissioner Lambert.
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that presentation, Wen. We've got a couple of, a few quasi-judicial items coming up. So we need to swear in witnesses, and commissioners, you need to make your disclosures. We'll do commission disclosures first. Commissioner Nearing.
You want me to do the swearing in first, Mr. Mayor?
That's fine if you're ready to do that now.
Yes. Everyone wish to speak on items 12 through 14, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay. All right, you may proceed, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Nearing, your disclosure.
I don't have the form in front of me, so if you could go to some.
All right, Madam President, your disclosure.
Thank you, Mayor. As to items 12 and 14,
I have not had ex parte communications, not received written communications, not conducted an investigation, not made a site visit, nor received expert opinions. As to item 13, I have had ex parte communications with the developer representative, have received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation, not made a site visit, nor received expert opinions. I request these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Commissioner Fox.
As to this matter, number 12 to 14, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you, Mayor. As to items 12 and 14, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, nor have I received expert opinions. As to item 13, I have had ex parte communications with the applicant and representatives. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, nor have I received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
And Commissioner Peduzzi.
Thank you, Mayor. As to all of these matters except for number 13, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, nor have I received any expert opinions. As to number 13, I have met with, I have had ex parte communications with a representative of the developer. I've not received written communications. I've not conducted an investigation. I've not made a site visit, nor have I received any expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made a part of the record.
And Commissioner Neering.
Thank you. As to items 12 and 14, I have not had ex parte communications, not received written communications, not conducted an investigation, not made a site visit or received expert opinion. As to item 13, I have not had, I have had ex parte communication with the applicant and representatives, have not received written communication, have not conducted an investigation, have not made a site visit or received expert opinion. I request that all of these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Okay, item 12, public hearing of resolution number 157-20, a request by Donna Isham on behalf of Tamara Rabo, and I apologize if I mispronounce those names, for the approval of a Class A special use permit, granting a waiver for the length of a proposed dock. The existing single-family home is located at 3010 North Flagler Drive. Who's presenting this?
And is here.
Yeah, this is Donna.
She can present, and then Elena Wooten from my staff will follow up when she's completed.
Okay, Ms. Isham.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm just trying this technology, so bear with me for 1 second, please. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine, and we can see your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so let's see. Let's see, I'm trying to put it into a slideshow, but it's not working correctly. Okay, anyhow, I'm Anna Isham, and I'm here on behalf of my customer, which is 3010 Flagler, Tamara Rabel and her husband. And at this point that we're looking to extend the dock. We have a dock that's built, and it's right now at 100 linear feet, which
Ms. Isham, before you continue, can you confirm for the record that you were sworn in and that you did agree to? Were you sworn in?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Isham, if you hit on from beginning, you'll get your PowerPoint loaded up properly. On the top left of the screen.
Okay.
From beginning.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Right there.
Okay, okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, like I said, my name is Donna Isham, and I work for Docks and More Construction, and I'm here to represent my customer on extending an existing dock. Right now, we had permission to go 100 linear feet from the seawall, which is what the town allows. We're also in the middle 1/3 of the property. The location and setbacks, the Code of Ordinances says that maximum dock length shall not exceed the minimum dock length approved by DEP and Army Corps based on the minimum water depth necessary to moor the vessels at low mid tide and minimum length to clear existing seagrass beds up to maximum of 100 feet. We're trying to get permission to go further, and we're doing the Class A special permit. The reason we're requesting this extension is we did a survey, a seagrass survey and a depth analysis, and that's what this chart shows. At low tide, the first 50 to 100 feet is very minimal depth. We have up to 5 feet, up to 100 feet, and we aren't able to moor their boats based on that. There's also a lot of seagrass, as you can see. So we're not able to moor the boats, once again, because of the seagrass beds. So we're looking to extend it to 156 feet, which will bring us out to closer to 8 or 9 feet of depth and get us out of the seagrass area for the mooring of the boats. This is the picture of the dock that we're proposing. You can see it has a boat lift at the end with the dock, with the terminal platform. This is just an aerial location, and you can see a lot of the docks in the area based on the depth have also already exceeded the 100-foot setback. So we'd be very consistent to everyone else in the area who has docks. On this page, it shows just the picture of how the dock will look in comparison to the neighbors. Also, to let you know that the canal width is 2,400 linear feet. So we're looking to go 156 feet out from the seawall, which is really close to the edge of the canal, really close to the edge of the property compared to the width of the canal. Also, the channel is approximately 600 linear feet from where the end of the seawall would be. We did get approval from both Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Department of the Army Corps to extend the dock and to build the dock based on our specs. And that's it. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Hearing and seeing none. Mr. Green, did you want to or your staff want to make a presentation?
Elena, did you want to run through any slides? I think that, if not, Mayor, that kind of covered it. I know the evening is getting late, but
Hi.
go ahead.
Yes, I won't belabor the point, but I'll just touch on some of the points, fill in some of the blanks from staff's perspective. Good evening. My name is Elena Wooten. I'm representing planning staff in this special use Class A request for a dock.
Can you confirm for the record that you were sworn in?
Yes, I was sworn in. This request for a dock and a length waiver permit as an accessory dock to the home located at 3010 North Flagler Drive. The request is for them to construct a dock that exceeds the 100 feet that is set by code. This is an aerial photo of the property as you saw earlier. It's a single family zoning district with single family homes surrounding it. As Ms. Isham spoke, the applicant's justification letter is requesting 156-foot long dock beyond the seawall where the code only permits 100 feet. So she needs the 6 foot of depth at low tide to be able to moor sufficiently a 70-foot dock. As she stated, they have submitted and received approvals for the 156-foot length from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Army Corps of Engineers. Here's the survey of the property, and you can see the the length of the dock has been drawn, so you can see where that falls with the existing property. And here's the dock plan that you saw earlier. This request complies with the general use standards as well as the specific use standards, the residential district standards, and the additional standards set forth by our code for docks. As mentioned before, the applicant is asking for a waiver to extend the dock to 156 feet. And this request does comply with the waiver standards. So staff is recommending approval of this resolution 15720 with the following conditions. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Applicant is here as well.
Commissioner Lambert, you have a question?
Thank you. First, I'm so appreciative of numbers on the slides. Thank you. Can you go back to slide 7? I just wanted to make sure we had time to review those.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then my question was, I understand that staff did mailings to the neighbors, and I was just curious to, did they all come back positive? Were there any concerns that needed to be addressed?
There were no concerns based on this request. So there were calls, but they just wanted to know what the basis of the request were. When I explained to them what it was, they didn't have any more questions. They just wanted to know what it was in more detail.
Elena, let me also mention we did receive unanimous approval at the planning board meeting as well.
Right.
Anything else, Commissioner Lambert?
No, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution 157-20, approving a Class A special use permit with conditions and granting waivers for the construction of a dock at 3010 North Flagler Drive. This motion is based upon the staff report, the testimony given, the recommendation of the planning board, along with the findings that the request complies with the comprehensive plan and the applicable standards in section 94-36 E3 through 5, 94-313A3, and 94-237A2 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved in second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Commissioner Nearing,
Yay.
Commissioner Schoaf,
Yay.
Commissioner Fox,
Yay.
Commissioner Lambert,
Yay.
Commissioner Peduzzi,
Yay.
motion passes.
Okay, very good. Item 13, public hearing of resolution number 169-20, a request by Joni Brinkman of Urban Design Kilday Studios on behalf of Palm Beach Atlantic University, Inc. for a minor subdivision to approve the plat entitled Palm Beach Atlantic University Residential Dormitory, generally located at the northeast corner of Pembroke Place and South Dixie Highway. Ms. Brinkman, or are we doing a staff presentation first?
Ms. Brinkman will go first, and then John Roach will follow up, please.
All right, very good. Ms. Brinkman, you're muted. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Can you confirm that you were sworn in, please?
Yes, I was sworn in.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I am going to be very brief. This is just a subdivision approval, basically a housekeeping task of just very few slides. I know it's getting late. I'll just run through this very quickly. I am sharing my screen, but it's not coming up. Oh, here. Okay. Yeah, I'm having the same problem she had where it's not going to the slideshow. There we go. Okay, before you tonight, I have the Palm Beach Atlantic University Residential Dormitory plat. The overview, the request includes, this is a request for a minor subdivision at plat for 2.296 acres. This is a portion of the 22.04 acre community service plan development for Palm Beach Atlantic University. The subject parcel is located on the northeast corner of Pembroke Place and South Dixie Highway. Currently under construction on the site is an 8-story, 510-bed dormitory. They are working very closely with staff. They're hoping to get the TCO and the final CO so that that'll be open and available for students come August. This replat is required per a condition of approval from the original approving resolution 1619. Very briefly, this slide showed you the overall existing campus of Palm Beach Atlantic University, bordered generally on the north by Okeechobee, on the west by Dixie, on the south by Diana Place, and in different areas on the east by Flagler Drive. This area here is actually the subject of the replat. It currently consists of various parcels, all under the ownership of the university. The purpose of the replat is to tie it all together and create one legal lot of record. And that's my presentation. So this is a closing slide of the elevations presented originally before the commission for the university. We're looking for your recommendation for approval for the plat. Available for any questions if you have any.
Any questions of Ms. Brinkman? Commissioner Lambert.
I would, if the staff is going to make a presentation, I'd like to wait until if they're going to present as well.
Okay. Mr. Roach, are you going to present?
Yeah, good evening. I really don't have anything to add to.
Can you confirm that you were sworn in, please?
Yes, I was sworn in.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have anything to add to what Ms. Brinkman already presented, other than to put on the record that staff is recommending approval of this. It is addressing a condition of approval that was granted as part of the dormitory back in 2019. We believe that it does comply with all the required statements of the comprehensive plan and zoning code. It was not required to go to the planning board as a minor subdivision. It's just consolidation of parcels. Therefore, it's not required for a recommendation by the planning board. But again, staff does feel like it does comply and therefore is recommending approval. But can answer any questions you have.
Very good. Commissioner Lambert, you have a question now?
Thank you. I appreciate it. It definitely seems to make sense that we would want to connect these parcels here, but I just wanted to know, have we seen plans for what will be there in the future? Is that part of this process?
I forgot to put the other side. This parcel is the dormitory that is under construction right now. That's what triggered the need for the replat, and it's consolidating all of those parcels on that block because they're all owned by PBAU. So therefore,
no additional land that's not being built on right now that's in this.
Correct. And any future development of any parcels or any part of that parcel would have to come back before the city commission.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 169-20, creating the plat entitled Atlantic University Residential Dormitory. This motion is based upon the application submitted, the staff report, factual testimony, and the findings that the request complies with the comprehensive plan and the standards in section 94-342 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Madam Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Commissioner Neary?
Yay.
Commissioner Schoaf?
Yay.
Commissioner Fox?
Yay.
Commissioner Lambert?
Yay.
Commissioner Peduzzi?
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Item 14, public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 4902-20 regarding the transfer of the site plan approvals and development conditions and regulations related to the Airport Industrial Park Commercial Plan Development, CPD, to a separate resolution, and a discussion of resolution number 171-20 approving a major amendment to the Airport Industrial Park Commercial Plan Development, CPD, revising the sign plan and renaming the plan development as the Cervico Commercial Plan Development, CPD. All of the above reference items are being requested by Brian Seymour and Joshua Long of Gunster on behalf of Retro Fitness. Mr. Seymour or Mr. Long? Oh, there's Mr. Seymour.
We're gonna go with Mr. Long, so you actually get someone who knows what they're doing tonight.
Okay, there's Mr. Long. Very good. Please confirm that you were sworn in, sir.
Josh, unmute. Josh, you got to unmute.
Okay, there we go. For the record, Josh Long, planner with Gunster. I have been sworn in.
Great, thank you.
And I believe you can see my screen. Is that correct?
Not yet.
No? Can you see my screen now or not?
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
You clicking the green share screen button at the bottom of your Zoom window?
Josh, click the green button at the bottom, then you can open up your PowerPoint. You're good. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we are here today for the Cervico CPD major PD amendment. I'll be real brief. I'm sorry. There, okay, sorry. So you can see, all right, I had a little technical difficulty there, 3 screens going here. So real quickly, the location I imagine everybody's familiar with. This is on the corner of Belvedere and Australian. This is the Cervico CPD. This original plan development was approved in the late 70s and early 80s. The site was completely built out in 1983. It consists of a 189,103 square foot hotel, 2 office towers, which total 110,795 square feet, and then a parking garage of 47,583 square feet, which is situated behind the office towers. Here's a shot of how the buildings sit on the site. You do have the 2 office towers, the east being next to Australian, the west tower being closer to Belvedere, and then of course the hotel with the parking garage behind it. When the plan development was originally approved, a sign program was approved with it. The sign regulations during the 1980s were different than they are today. We are coming in to revise the sign program and to get it more in line with what the general commercial underlying zoning for the site actually allows. I do want to mention that what we are proposing is under the maximum allowed development that you could do for signage under general commercial. So our proposal is still under what you could do by right under general commercial zoning. Real quickly, the program just kind of cleans up some things and makes it easier to identify where the signs are going to be. We identify top tier signs and lower tier signs. We also are going to allow signs at the entrance so there can be more building identification. And so real quickly, here's a picture of the West Tower and the East Tower. Currently, there's 1 sign, the Romano Law Group on the West Tower. Our proposal from our client, Retro Fitness, is looking to locate their corporate headquarters, and they'd like more recognition on the top tier of the building. And this is in line with other office towers in the city that have corporate headquarters as the main tenant of a building. On the lower tier, this would allow some signage at the entrance of the office towers for other tenants in the building to make it easier wayward finding for their tenants and clients that were coming to the building. This is a mock-up of what the proposed sign for Retro Fitness would look like on the East Tower. With that, we would support staff's recommendation to approve the first reading. And I do want to mention that Planning and Zoning did approve our request 7-0 in their April Planning and Zoning Board meeting. And with that, we're here for any questions you have. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Long? Mr. Green, will staff be presenting as well?
Angela, I know you had one slide. Did you want to comment, Angela?
I'm just gonna say, Angela Van, Planning and Zoning Administrator. It said that the request complies with section 9432 of the Planning and Zoning and Land Development Regulations, and the applicants already stated that the planning board approved this by 7-0 vote on April 21st.
And can you please confirm for the record you were sworn in?
Yes, I was sworn in.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing and seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 4902-20, transferring the site plan and related conditions for the Airport Industrial Park CPD to a separate resolution on first hearing. This motion is based upon the application submitted, the staff report and recommendation of the planning board, the finding that the request complies with the comprehensive plan and the standards of section 94-32 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, can you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 4902-20, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amend ordinance numbers 1438-79, 1534-80, 1618-82, 1716-83, 1863-85, 2209-88, and 2642-93 as amended, relating to the Airport Industrial Park Commercial Plan Development located at 1601 Belvedere Road, to transfer the site plan approvals and related conditions to a separate resolution, providing an effective date and for the purposes.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Commissioner Nearing?
Yay.
Commissioner Schoaf?
Yay.
Commissioner Fox?
Yay.
Commissioner Lambert?
Yay.
Commissioner Paduzzi?
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you all.
That is the last item on the agenda, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.